According to everyone who's ever played a Harvest Moon game, Animal Parade is the best entry in the series, so I decided to 100% it. In this video, I will befriend every NPC, catch every fish, buy every house upgrade, and so on and so forth until I can't do anything else. This video is a compilation of 2 other videos, so if you want to check those out individually, they will be linked in the description. That being said, this video is going to be close to 3 hours long, so before we get into the action, please allow me to fulfill a contractual obligation by letting you know that this video is sponsored by me. That's right, everyone, this video will be coming at you mid-roll ad-free, and all I ask in return is for you to do 3 things. First, if you could subscribe to the channel and enable notifications, that would be awesome. Less than 7% of the people who watch my videos hit that subscribe button, so I'd really appreciate it if you did that. Second, if you could slap the like button a lot, that would really help me out. The more likes this video gets, the more likely it'll show up in YouTube recommendations, which is a game changer for my channel. And finally, if you could leave a comment letting me know if you wet your toothbrush before or after applying toothpaste, that would really help me out. I'm really struggling not knowing what to do. And with that advertisement over, let's 100% Harvest Moon Animal Parade. I start my Animal Parade adventure on day 1 by selecting one of the male characters and making sure everyone knows my name is Jack. Finn the Harvest Sprite makes his introduction and implores me that we really need to see the Harvest Goddess ASAP. Apparently, she is in dire need of assistance, and I'm the only person that can provide it. After I answer a couple of questions about what my favorite food is and what season I was born in, I wish Kane a safe ride home and arrive at my new homestead. Mayor Hamilton is waiting for me on my front porch, where he makes his introduction and gifts me a map. Along with that map, Hamilton also provides me with the necessary equipment to get started farming. Then I get a little introduction to my surroundings. Flute Fields is to the east, Harmonica Town is to the west, and the Garmin Mine District is to the north. I give a proper name to my new farmland, Fowl Farm, and then check out the new digs to end a very introductory day 1 and get started on my farming journey. The first thing I do on day 2 is put on some fresh threads and head out into my crop field to collect some ripe turnips, water some tulips, and then prep and plant some more turnip seeds that will hopefully grow in quickly with a nice watering. As I was exploring around the mountain area, I ran into everyone's favorite handyman, Bo, at the bridge. For some reason, he gives me an axe and then sends me on an errand to retrieve his toolbox from Hamilton so that he can fix the bridge. So I decided to make my way over to Harmonica Town and find Hamilton, who needs a quid pro quo for Bo's toolbox. Now I have to introduce myself to everyone in town. I introduce myself to Simon the photographer at his place of business, then run up to the church grounds where I meet Chase, Perry, and Mira. Over at the clinic, I introduce myself to Irene, and then it's over to the inn where I meet Yolanda and our first marriage candidate, Maya. I introduce myself to Ozzy down at the wharf, and meet innkeepers Jake and Colleen. Bachelorette number 2, Kathy, is down at the brass bar, along with the owner, Hayden, before introducing myself to the local tailor, Shelly, and her daughter / bachelorette number 3, Candace. With that, I've now met everyone in town, and I can return to Hamilton and collect Bo's toolbox. I hightail it back to the waterfall and give Bo his tools, but he still can't repair the bridge on an empty stomach. So now it looks like I have to be a waiter as well as a gopher. I ran down to Flute Fields to purchase a strawberry, but I ran into a domestic dispute involving an old man and a small child. The kid's name is Taylor, and he informs me that the 2 adults in the picture are Craig and Ruth, before gifting me some cabbage seeds. Now that that's settled, I can finally purchase that strawberry, along with some more seeds from Ruth at Marimba Farms. I ran across the way to Horn Ranch and met Kane in his barn, where he asked me if I wanted a free calf. And you know I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, so I agreed and randomly selected a cow. I got myself a black one, and I named her Coco. Along with my new friend Coco, Kane also gives me a brush to keep her nice and clean. As I exited the barn, I ran into the local farmer girl bachelorette and marriage candidate number 4, Renee. While running home, I checked out a neato windmill and was introduced to local fisherman Toby, who got me started on my angling journey with a fishing rod to finish off a very busy day 2. I start my journey in animal husbandry on day 3 as I give Coco some pets and ring her outside, before getting my tulips wet and planting and watering those cabbage seeds Taylor gave me yesterday. Rule number 1 for the early parts of Animal Parade is getting every forageable possible, specifically these green herbs which will be used in a future quest. I then make my way to a Horn Ranch and formally introduce myself to Hannah, who gives me a free sickle. I really came here to get some feed for Coco, and then it's off to do some more foraging by the beach, before getting Coco nice and fed. Down by the lighthouse, I caught my first ever fish, a goby, and then finished off day 3 by tilling, planting, and watering some more cabbage seeds. Day 4 begins by plucking up some tulips that have fully matured, and then harvesting some ripe potatoes. By the way, I kept 1 potato for myself, and if you're planning on replaying Animal Parade, you really should too. Anyways, I got all of the dry seeds and seedlings watered, and ran down to the Horn Ranch to buy some milk for Bo, only to learn that it's closed on Wednesdays, so that's a bummer. Since I couldn't do what I wanted to do in fixing the bridge today, I decided to spend the rest of my day fishing down by the watermill, doing some foraging, and finishing the day off by catching my first crawfish. Day 5 is the first rainy day of this video and the spring season, so I prepared some squares in the farmland, then ran down to the Horn Ranch to finally buy that milk. I then beelined it to the waterfall to give Bo the strawberry and milk that he requested, and now he can get started on repairing the bridge. That afternoon, I grabbed some seeds from 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐵 Farms and got all of them planted in those freshly prepared spots I tilled this morning. I finished the day off by doing some fishing down at the beach, and then just jumping into bed. Day 6 is a long one, and it starts by waking up to someone knocking on my door. It's Bo, letting me know that he has finished repairing the bridge, and the Garmin Mine District is now able to be visited. I'm super excited to get a look at those mines, but I have to do my farm chores first. While I was watering my crops, I leveled up my watering can skill to level 2. Here's a quick explanation on skills for those who don't know. Every time you use a tool, you gain experience. When you get enough experience to reach one of these blue lines, you've leveled up that skill, and using the tool now takes less stamina. Got that? Cool. It's high time I visited the Garmin Mines District, so I ran up there and took in the views. Finn let me know that the Goddess Pond is up here, but before we do that, I introduced myself to Dale the Carpenter, who sells furniture, but more importantly, building upgrades. As I attempted to go to the Goddess Pond, a bunch of wild animals blocked the path and refused my entry. Finn says that we need to show them that we're not a threat, but I don't know how to communicate with animals. So I just put that on the back burner and introduced myself to Barbara, who runs the general store up here. She sells some really important stuff, including cooking tools, TVs, and refrigerators, and I decided to pick up the cutting board utensil. At the accessory store, I ran into Julius, who's just lounging around, and then I ran over to the blacksmith shop, where I met Ramsey. As I entered the Garmin Mines proper, I introduced myself to Owen, Ramsey's apprentice, who gifts me the all-important hammer so that I can finally do some mining. I delved down into the mines for the first time and managed to get down to floor 10, which is unfortunately barricaded by a large boulder that Owen is going to start working on removing. Since I don't have anything better to do, I decided to do some mining today. I grabbed myself a silver ore on floor 9, played some whack-a-mole on floor 7 and was rewarded with a body geyser, and cracked open enough rocks to eventually level up my hammer skill to level 2. To finish off my first spelunking trip, I got some iron and copper on floor 2, and then ran back home, where I placed my brand new cutting board in the kitchen, and got started on my cooking journey by using a goby to create some decent sashimi. Fun fact, that turns a 7G fish into an 80G meal, so a pretty solid profit. I definitely don't abuse this later. I went and purchased some more seeds from 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐵 Farms, and then ran into Dale outside of his shop doing some tricks with his dog. He told me that an animal whistle will help me communicate with those wild ragamuffins in front of the Goddess Pond, but he seems to have misplaced it. I eventually tracked it down in Owen's possession, and successfully acquired the whistle. I immediately used it at the path leading to the Goddess Pond, and the wild animals seemed to trust me now. I ran into the sanctuary, and after a way too bright flash of light, the harvest goddess awoke from her slumber. Apparently, the tree is dying, and in order to bring power back to the land, I need to ring the 5 bells scattered across the world. According to the harvest goddess, the harvest sprites associated with these bells are too weak to ring them, and if they aren't activated soon, the land will die and everyone will be forced to move away. The goddess asked for my assistance, and I guess I have no other option. To finish off day 6, the goddess gifted me my first power berry of the playthrough, to permanently increase my stamina. I start day 7 off by checking my mail. I've got a couple of letters from Dale at the carpenter shop educating me on how to build new buildings and renovate the ones I have, and then I get half a dozen turnips harvested in the fields. I sow some more seeds assisted by the rain in the air, and then while I'm doing my foraging at the beach, I discovered a golden bell stuck in the sand. As I pulled it up, I officially met the harvest sprite, Colin, who is far too weak to hold up a conversation. Finn seems super worried about Colin and begs me to take him up to see the harvest goddess. But before I do that, I've got some money burning a hole in my pocket. So I purchase some lettuce seeds from Ruth, and then I go back to the farm and till all the necessary squares of land and get those seeds sown. I then run over to the goddess pond where the goddess tells me how to restore Colin with the power of the moonlight. While I was up in the Garmin district, I decided to do some mining and found that Owen successfully removed the large boulder. So, good for him. To finish off day 7, Calvin the archaeologist / cowboy showed me some cool looking stones and made a formal introduction. To start off day 8, I'm in the field harvesting some turnips and lettuce, before running to Marimba Farms to pick up a quest from Ruth for 10 heads of good lettuce. While I'm here, I decided to pick up a couple more lettuce seeds, and then ran into Kane at the gate of Fugu Forest. He says if I want to go inside, I'll need to get the key from Dale the carpenter. But before I do that, I got some newly planted lettuce watered, then grabbed the aforementioned key from Dale at his carpenter's shop. As I exit to go back to the forest, I ran into Bo playing a game of kick the can with someone called Chloe. Turns out the can that they're trying to kick is actually the red bell. Before I managed to get the bell, a little girl kicked it into the chimney of the blacksmithery, if that's a word. This little girl with the kick power of Cristiano Ronaldo is Chloe, by the way. Chloe and I ran to Ramsey to see how we could get the bell out, and it turns out he needs one of each ore: copper, iron, silver, and gold. Luckily enough, I had exactly what he needed, and I guess the power of all these ores combined was enough energy to shoot the red bell out of the chimney, and I was able to catch it before it got destroyed on impact. With the red bell in my hands, I ran down to floor 10 and got the bell rang with the help of Red Harvest Sprite Alan. The beautiful melodies from the bell rang out across the Garmin Mine District as all the residents watched as a little bit of life returned to the world. With that, the power of fire is restored to the entire valley, and a hatch has magically opened, allowing us to go deeper in the mines, in addition to the ability to use various hot springs around town to restore stamina. I made it pretty far down in the mines this afternoon, but I had to call it quits early as I had my first encounter with the dreaded sickness gas. With that being said, the day isn't over yet, as I found some moonlight for Colin and the yellow bell to ingest. Moonlight Stone number 2 is located at the lighthouse, and Moonlight Stone number 3 can be found near Horn Ranch. With all that moonlight, it looks like Colin finally has enough energy to return to his physical form. Unfortunately, he has no idea where the yellow bell pedestal is, outside a couple of clues. A long day 8 comes to an end as I head to bed, but Finn is up burning that midnight oil. He asks me what he needs to do to become a good leader like Alan, the Red Harvest Sprite. I say he needs to focus on being responsible, and he seems to agree with that assessment. Day 9 begins in the field watering a whole bunch of crops. Now that I've rang the red bell, I can utilize the hot spring near my house for more energy. And I'm gonna need it with how quick my stamina drops with all these crops to water. I got Coco the cow brushed, and then ran down to the clinic to get some cold medicine since a good night's rest hasn't cleared me of that cold status effect. Today is earmarked as the day I enter Fugu Forest for the first time. It's kind of like the mines, just with trees. I made it to the midway point where I officially introduced myself to Luke, the son of town carpenter Dale, who rushes home to check in with his dad. As I made my way to the center of the forest, I found a quaint little house. As I gingerly stepped inside the dwelling, I discovered a pink frog. Unfortunately, I don't speak frog, but Finn has a great idea of contacting the wizard to see if he can help us. But that's a quest for another day, as I finish up day 9 by purchasing some more lettuce seeds and getting those watered in the moonlight. I started day 10 by brushing Coco the cow, who now has her first heart of friendship. I've got a solid handful of cabbage and turnips ripe for the picking, so I get those harvested and head over to Marimba Farms to purchase some more seeds to repopulate. As I was increasing the size of the farm, I got my hoe skill up to level 2, and then got those lettuce seeds planted. That afternoon, I introduced myself to the wizard, who was hard at work staring into the sun with his telescope. I asked him about the witch, and he mentions a frog, revealing that the frog that we saw in the center of the Fugu forest was in fact the witch princess. In order to get her back to her human form, I'll need to procure some ingredients for our magic friend to make a potion. One of those ingredients can only be found on an island that is impossible to reach, since there aren't any boats coming to Harmonica Town. So, the lighthouse is the most obvious next destination. But before going there, I ran into Mira at the church and convinced her to go back to work with Julius at the accessory shop. I made my way to the lighthouse and officially met Paolo, the son of Ozzy. Speaking of Ozzy, I bought a whole bunch of fish from him and utilized my cutting board to turn all 34 gobies into sashimi, and I got them sold away, almost tripling the value I got them from Ozzy for. Now that the red bell has been rung, I can utilize the upper Garmin mines, where I met Phoebe on floor 5. She's another bachelorette, by the way. I spent the evening doing some mining in the upper mines, where I found my first white wonderful and my first ever rare ore. I made it all the way to the tippity top of the mountain, where after doing a bit of sleuthing, I found myself the second power berry to consume and permanently increase my stamina. Another long day comes to an end as I watch the sashimi money flood into my bank account. I'm back in the fields harvesting a bunch of ripe crops before getting them watered to start day 11. An early dip in the hot springs is in order, and then it's over to the windmill of Horned Ranch where I found the pedestal to mount the green bell, which I don't have yet. Speaking of bells that I don't have yet, I asked Paolo about the blue bell, and he mentioned something about a watery cave in which he has a key to. I got the key and the entrance unlocked and discovered the blue bell just sitting there. I asked Darren, the blue harvest sprite, to ring the bell, but after hesitating for a good long while, he admits that he forgot the melody. So, Finn suggests that we go see the harvest goddess. She said that we need to find someone familiar with the watery cave, but I'm much more interested in making money right now. So, I bought a bunch of gobies from Ozzy again, and then ran into Shelly on my way home. She says she can make me a big rucksack in exchange for some wool and 10 green herbs. Since there is no way I can get wool right now, I decided to do some mining and found a very nice rare ore. But more importantly, I got all the way down to floor 30, where I found yet another power berry to get a stamina increase. I finished off day 11 by turning all my purchased gobies into sashimi to make a whole bunch of money. There are a handful of crops ready for harvest to start day 12, so I get those veggies plucked out and then I till out the remaining squares on the farm, which is ready for more seeds. Down at Horde Ranch, I got some wool purchased along with my first coop animal, a duck, who I named Calvin. While I'm cashing out, I got some lettuce seeds purchased, and then get all of those sown in my newly tilled squares. Calvin gets her first bit of food, and then I ran into Shelly's tailor store to exchange some wool and herbs for an expanded rucksack, which can now be populated with a total of 20 items. To celebrate, I decided to go do some fishing down by the beach and caught a delicious sardine. I spent the remainder of this day doing some sashimi making in the kitchen. I woke up to everyone's favorite mayor knocking on my door on day 13. The first festival of the year, the Flower Festival, is scheduled for tomorrow, and he just wanted to let me know about it. More important than flowers, though, is lettuce, and I have a bunch of lettuce that needs to be harvested and sold away to all those salad eaters out there. With all these crops to water, I'll be utilizing the hot springs a lot. I made my way up to the accessory shop, and Julius is happy to let me know that Mira has returned to work the store, and I can now do refining. I actually got really good luck on my first round of refining, netting myself some crystals, a garnet, and a ruby. Throwing all of these into the shipping bin should net me a nice financial boost. After ringing that red bell, Owen and Ramsey are delighted to inform me that I can now forge copper and silver tools. So I go straight into the mine and start collecting those ores. After the healthy lettuce harvest this morning, I was able to complete Ruth's quest for 10 good heads of lettuce. And she was happy to unlock the gate just east of her farm, where I encountered this cute little cutscene of Craig praying to the harvest goddess, asking her to bring life back to the land of flute fields. I get Colin's bell placed on the pedestal, and he gives me a little thank you dance. But unfortunately, it's too late for me to ring the bell because for some reason, there needs to be sun out to ring the bell. I don't get it either, but them's the rules. So I decided to call it a day and made quite a bit of cash from that farming. Even more lettuce and cabbage are ripe and ready for plucking to start day 14, and I make sure to get all of those growing plants nice and wet before heading over to the yellow bell pedestal to attempt to ring the bell again, where a very unfortunate discovery awaits me. I'll just let Live Jack handle this one.
Okay, hold up. This is live me right now. Holy fuck, dude. I can't ring the bell yesterday because it's dark outside. I can't ring the bell today because it's a festival day. Holy shit. This game is good. But oh my god, why? Why? You're telling me that a harvest sprite takes the day off? You're telling me that? Oh my god.
So yeah, that's how I feel about this game right now. To further vent my frustrations, I spent the afternoon just pounding some rocks before heading down to the flower festival, where I ended the day just talking to people because honestly, I don't think I even did this festival correctly. If I didn't have cows and a duck, you would assume I'm a vegan farmer with all this lettuce I'm growing. Day 15 begins in earnest at the accessories shop as I get some iron refined and finally have enough to upgrade my watering can. As I talk to Bo, it's revealed that this man is the real unsung hero of the valley. Not only does he repair the bridge, but he also is repairing this old minecart. He just needs some fuel, so it's an easy decision to give him a mushroom for his efforts. While I'm in the Garment District, I decided to splash some cash on some cooking tools, a TV, and an incubator for the chicken coop. Back at home, I get the kitchen set up with my new appliances and then get to cooking. I started with the aging pot by making a blueberry cocktail, and then I made some herbal tea with the regular pot. My brand new iron watering can now water 2 crops at a time, which is super handy for stamina efficiency, but it still takes quite a long time to water this many crops. I hit up the hot spring for that stamina boost, and then it's back to Marimba Farms to finally ring that yellow bell. Colin does a cute little dance before giving that gong a solid strike, and the fantastic melodies of the yellow bell descend upon Craig and Ruth, as well as the fields and rivers on this east side of the valley. Colin says the land will now be healthy again, so I purchase some more lettuce seeds and start down the long road of villager friendship, starting with some herbal tea for Renee and Hannah, which they both love. Speaking of Hannah, I bought some animal feed from her, then ran over to the coop to attempt to make my first ever deposit into the incubator. But little did I know you can't put ostrich eggs in this specific incubator, so I just put a chicken egg in there instead. Irene from the clinic loves herbal tea, as does Toby, who is fishing down at the dock. Over at the lighthouse, I ran into Paolo, who explained how to ring the blue bell. Of course, he had to add on a couple of drawn-on bits to this map for it to make sense. Essentially, I need a duck egg, a black pearl, and 5 identical fish to ring the bell. So I make my way down to the Watery Cave mine. I found myself a brand new Wonderful, the purple variation, as well as playing some whack-a-mole and being rewarded with a super rare extra large body geyser. I took a nice relaxing dip in the hot springs on floor 20, and then made my way down to floor 25, where I found the elusive black pearl. Since I had the time, I decided to do even more mining, and found a green Wonderful, another black pearl on floor 44, and eventually made it all the way down to floor 50, where I can actually do some fishing, and I caught myself my first rockfish to end the day. But Finn had different ideas. He can't sleep knowing that he wasn't able to cheer people up like Colin is, and asked me how he can learn to be more like Colin. And obviously, he just needs to learn some funny jokes, and he'll be good to go. Taylor has arrived back from his seed finding journey to start day 16, and he's even started a new seed delivering business. I've got some mail to start the day, but it's just an ad from the general store for more cooking utensils. I finally decided to cut down these trees on my farmland. I know they give cherries later on, but it's annoying that I can't use my entire field. I was able to chop a couple down and sowed some more lettuce in the places that they left. And then I went over to the general store because they added a couple things that I am interested in, and that's the refrigerator and rotary phone. So I get those bought and give Bo another mushroom to continue to support his efforts in repairing the minecart. I spent almost all the afternoon in the upper Garmin mines looking for iron ore. The speed gas really makes precision mining difficult, as you can see here, but I did find myself a rare ore. I decided to do a bit of refining with everything I got today, and was rewarded with a solid yield from my purple wonderfuls, including an amethyst. But more importantly, I got a couple of iron bars, 3 copper bars, 4 silver bars, and 1 gold bar, which isn't too bad with these refining odds. Back home, I got my refrigerator and new rotary phone placed, and then ran down to the clinic to grab a cold medicine so that I don't run out of stamina during tomorrow morning's chores. Speaking of chores, I had just enough stamina this evening to finish off chopping all the trees on the farm, before calling it a day. A nice clear field brimming with delicious strawberries and lettuce is my reward from all my work to start day 17. And I even got my first ever shining vegetable, which is pretty dope if you ask me. Before doing any watering today, I got my watering can upgraded to copper, then gave Bo my freshly harvested strawberry, the final nutrient donation needed to get that minecart fixed. I got the lettuce put into the shipping bin, then did my first session of watering with my new copper tool. Being able to water 3 plants in one go is super convenient, but once again, it still takes a long time to get everything properly moist. But it does make stamina less of an issue. Of course, I still need a little soak in the hot springs before running over to 𝐵𝐵𝐵 Farms to check out the lovely scenery now that the yellow bell has been rung. Along with the improvement of the land, another bachelorette has been brought to the valley, Craig and Ruth's daughter, Anissa. She also comes bearing gifts in the form of some tomato seeds. In return, I gave her an herbal tea, one of her favorite gifts. I didn't know what Taylor likes, but it turns out he loves herbal tea just like his sister. I guess it's been a while since I've gone into the inn, since I'm just now seeing that their stove has finally started working and Chase can now do his cooking. You're right, Yolanda, the town really has changed for the better since I got here. It's almost like someone's magically doing stuff on the side while everybody's worrying about stuff and not helping me. Anyways, I spent almost all of this day fishing with Toby down by the dock, and I even gave Hamilton some herbal tea, which he also loves. I spent the evening taking those fish that I caught today and turning them into sashimi, and I sold all of them to cap off a day 17. I've got some mail from 𝐵𝐵𝐵 Farms to start day 18, but it's really not important, so I run out into the field and get all my delicious lettuce harvested. Since today is a Wednesday, I'm forced to pay double from Taylor's seeds because Ruth's shop is closed. So I get those lettuce seeds sown and watered before running over to the barn where Coco is finally fully grown. Unfortunately, I don't have a milker yet, so I'll have to do that some other time. I got myself a relaxing steam sesh, then gave Barbara some herbal tea over at the general store. After 12 days, Bo finally completed the minecart repair, and now I have a quick and easy way to get from the Garmin Mine District to the church grounds and vice versa. While I'm at the church, I gave Perry an herbal tea, one of his favorite gifts, and then finally decided to pay off my debt to Mayor Hamilton. It's Mayor Hamilton, that's the wrong game. After paying off that debt, he now has a couple more plots of land for sale at a price that might as well be impossible to purchase this early in the game. I continued my gift-giving tour by giving some herbal tea to Simon as well as Candace, both of which love the stuff, and then received another quest from Shelly to get another rucksack upgrade. This time around, she needs perfect wool, honey, and 5 body geysers. By the way, if you couldn't tell already, herbal tea is like a cheat code if you're okay with slowly building up friendship in this game. Almost 90% of the people in this town love it, if not have it as their favorite gift. And that includes like Jake, Colleen, and Yolanda as well. I caught some fish down by the beach and made sure I stayed on top of the foraging to get as many herbs as possible, and spent the remainder of the day in the kitchen cooking up some cocktails, herbal tea, and sashimi, before making a last-second addition to the shipping bin as I watched that money roll in. Calvin the duck has fully matured on day 19, and she laid her first ever duck egg. I made sure I harvested all my ripe fruits and vegetables, and kept all the crops and empty field squares nice and moist. I then ran over to 𝐵𝐵𝐵 Farms to buy some more seeds to immediately repopulate my field, and then put on a fresh fit and went down to the fishmonger. I bought myself 5 gobies as I'm finally ready for Paolo's quest for the blue bell. I placed those 5 fish in the little waiting pool, the black pearl in this little weird contraption next to the inn, and the duck egg at the top of this roof. I ran down to let Paolo know that I was ready to start, and I pushed the duck egg off the ramp. Essentially, Paolo and I made a little Rube Goldberg machine that eventually had the 5 fish play this little melody. As you can see, I'm super excited about accomplishing this task. With that melody fresh in my head, I ran down to the watery cave and relayed it to Ben, the blue harvest sprite. He can finally ring the blue bell and release the magic power of music across Harmonica Town. After ringing the bell, some random dude pulled up on me, and he's apparently Hamilton's son named Gil. Nice to meet you, Gil, but I've got stuff to do. Like finally purchasing the milker and getting my first churn of milk. As I got ready to end the day, Finn once again has to delay my rest by talking about some nonsense like, I want my own bell. So I just told him to never give up on his goal, which seemed to make him feel better and I could go to sleep. I was really awakened on day 20 by Paolo, who has come to let me know that the boat has finally come to Harmonica Town after God knows how long. The kid is so excited he forgot to tie his shoelaces and tripped on our way to the dock. Anyways, I'm formally introduced to Boat Captain Pascal, who apologizes for his inability to get here until today. Now I can get my day started in earnest by checking the mail from the fishery and the inn as they have new items for sale. More importantly, I have some lettuce ready for harvest and I have enough funds to upgrade my watering can to silver. The silver upgrade for this tool might be the most important in the game, as you go from watering 3 squares to 9 squares, which almost makes the stamina bar redundant with how efficient you can be. Down at the fishery, Ozzy lets me know that he has new stuff, but more importantly, he has the boat ticket for purchase. I can buy one of those and take them down to Pascal, and off I go to Toucan Island for the first time. Toucan Island is a sunny tropical escape from Harmonica Town and a welcome destination for me. My first stop at Toucan Island was the Pineapple Inn, where I met Selena, another bachelorette. She dreams of going to Harmonica Town now that the boats are back, but her mother, Sue, doesn't want her daughter to leave the nest. The family patriarch Samson seems to be stuck in between the two of them, and he can't provide me the hibiscus I need so badly with the rift between those two. I went down to the beach to talk to Selena, and all she wants to do is dance for me. I mean, give your offering, girl. The way Finn and I react, you would think we've never seen a person dance before, as we're like absolutely gobsmacked. Anyways, I spent some time on the island fishing, but eventually just jumped back on the ship to go back home. As soon as I got back on dry land, Selena revealed that she's, here. She snuck on board and is now gonna follow her dream of going to Harmonica Town. I ended up finding her at the Brass Bar, where Hayden hired her as a dancer. So I guess the bar is now a burlesque club. Not only did she become a stowaway, but she also decided it's okay to use me as a little mail carrier to send a letter to her mom and dad. This day was already too long, so I put a cap on it and found some solace in the money that I made. Farm chores are the name of the game to start day 21. I collected eggs and milk from Calvin and Coco respectively, and then harvested all the ripe lettuce heads and strawberries before getting everything placed in the shipping bin. I went over to Marimba Farms to replenish my field of lettuce seeds, and got all those bad boys watered before I saw this really cute duck in the rain collection tub thingy, or whatever this little guy's floating in behind my house. I went down to Harmonica Town's clinic and ran into Irene having a discussion with a new villager. Well, a new villager to me, it's Dr. Jin, who has returned from a sabbatical. He also loves herbal tea, by the way. I hopped on Pascal's boat to head over to Toucan Island to give Sue and Samson the letter from Selena. Essentially, she just apologizes for running away, but don't worry, she's got a job and she'll visit when she can. Samson thanks me for being the mailman and rewards my efforts with the hibiscus flower that I needed for the wizard's quest. That's all I really came here for, so I hop back on the boat and give Selena a coconut I found on the island, which is one of her favorite gifts. I gave the wizard the hibiscus flower that I just received, and then ran back home, where I guess somehow Samson got some mail to me already, letting me know that they are back in business. I've done a lot of traveling today, so I decided to call it an early day and cash my check. A new farm member is welcome to the coop to start day 22, a baby chick I named Colleen. I just realized now, by the way, that Colleen is actually the name of a villager, so that seems kind of rude. I didn't remember that when I made the name. I'm sorry. Anyways, now that Jin is back, I've got some mail from the clinic advertising their new products. But taking care of my new animal is the most important thing. I get the lettuce heads ripped up from the ground and the seedlings watered before spending most of my day in the Garmin mines. Today was a very successful mining trip as I found some gold, some copper, and some silver ore to refine later. I also found my first Pontata root for bopping this little mole dude on the head. The 22nd day of every season welcomes the circus to town. In this universe, Mayor Theodore from Magical Melody is a ringmaster who has lost a couple of his circus animals that I agree to help him find. My first animal to track down is the giraffe Eunice. She'll only go home if we have a specific recipe made for her, so Theodore kindly teaches me how to make every recipe I'll need. Since I definitely don't have the ingredients for that right now, I make my way over to the clinic to ingest some more cold medicine after encountering more sickness gas in the mines. I finish the day off by making more herbal tea in the kitchen. Now that I have room in the incubator, I can start day 23 by throwing a duck egg in it. I harvest the ripe lettuce heads and water the not-so-ripe lettuce before running over to the watered cave and catching some fish. Theodore mentioned Eunice likes to hide near tall structures, and I found her hanging out by the lighthouse. But unfortunately, I don't have the fish dish needed to get her to trust me. Speaking of trust, I don't trust this newest bachelorette who's come to town, Luna. I don't know what it is about her, but she's definitely hiding something in those pigtails. They're just too big.
What do you mean by that?
I have a lot of cash right now, so I decided to purchase some more cooking utensils at the general store, then go across to the blacksmith to purchase an iron hammer. At this point, I really don't use the power-up feature for the hammer, so it's really more of an aesthetic purchase for now. After my mining session, I decided to do some refining and got a couple of bars of iron, silver, and copper, which will come in handy much later. I spent the evening making more sashimi in the kitchen and finished the day off by getting all that deposited in the shipping bin. 9000 G isn't a bad return for an honest day's work. I start off day 24 by milking cocoa for some decent milk, and then plucking some lettuce out of the ground to put in the shipping bin. I make sure all of my growing crops are properly watered, and then it's down to the Horn Ranch to purchase some fodder and feed before deciding I needed another animal. A baby sheep I decided to name Carl. I got some fertilizer from the Marimba Farms, but it's so hard to see the color difference between differing soil levels in terms of fertilization, and all fertilizer really does is increase crop growth speed, not quality, so it's not useful for a lot of stuff, but I thought I'd give it a try anyways. Back in the barn, I gave Carl her first meal, and then I headed over to the Garmin mines to look for more ores and wonderfuls. I had some pretty good luck today, but that luck did not extend to the refining process. I didn't get any diamonds from all these white wonderfuls I got, and I still haven't got any rare metal from the ores I have been able to find. I spent the evening doing some fishing down at the Goddess Pond and placed my haul into the shipping bin to finish off the day. I've got some mail to start off day 25. Shelly sent me an ad for all her new clothes and accessories in stock, and Marimba Farms now has rice. I got all my growing lettuce heads nice and wet, then spent most of the morning doing a run in the upper Garmin mines. This back-to-back gold ore was the best moment of this session, and of course I'm gonna hit up the accessory shop to refine what I found today. All in all, a pretty disappointing return was saved by getting some gold. Over at the blacksmith's, I bought myself the iron fishing rod upgrade, and then went into the clinic to purchase the 5 body geysers I needed for Shelly's quest. I'll get those delivered to her ASAP, and now I just need honey and perfect wool. While I'm here, I decided to pick up some fresh new clothes in the form of a pretty nifty looking tracksuit. With my new exercise wear equipped, I finished off day 5 by fishing down by the Goddess Pond, dropping off my caught fish into the shipping bin, and getting ready for bed. I start off day 26 in the barn, making sure Carl is one happy little animal, and then it's out into the field to harvest my last large crop of lettuce. Now that the spring season is slowly coming to an end, I only have a handful of crops to water. So I finish off my chores by getting those freshly harvested crops placed in the shipping bin, then running over to Marimba Farms, where Ruth is telling me some stuff that she already explained in her mail advertisement. I purchased some honey and corn from her, and then ran over to the windmill. Using whatever mechanism is in here, I get that corn turned into cornmeal, then give Shelly the honey I purchased as part of her quest. I then ran up to the wizard's house and gave him the cornmeal I just made, and take another step towards curing the witch princess. The rest of day 26 was spent in the Garmin mines. I found quite a lot of ores and wonderfuls, but the most exciting thing that happened today was leveling up my hammer skill to level 3. I tried to refine what I found in the mines today, but completely forgot all the stores in the Garmin Mines District are closed on Thursdays. So I just called it a day and watched my last big payday of the spring season roll in. As I exit my house to start day 27, Mayor Hamilton is already out in front to talk to me about tomorrow's Animal Festival, where I'll be able to show off my animals to all the townsfolk. It looks like I've got some mail from Barbara at the general store as she's got some new products in stock, and I make sure that my bird friends are well fed before collecting a fresh duck egg. Out in the field, I've got a lot of work to do. I've got some weeds to scythe, lettuce and strawberries to harvest, and some squares to till to prepare for the summer crop. There really isn't that much to do this late in the season, so I spent pretty much all day looking for more ores and wonderfuls in the mines. I had a pretty decent haul today, and the refining process was actually pretty good. I got a whole bunch of copper and iron ores, I got crystals, opals, amber, topaz, silver, and a little bit of gold as well. A lot of these will be used for profit, but I will be able to create some accessories in the future that a lot of characters love. I bought myself the copper upgrade for my fishing rod before spending the remainder of day 27 doing some fishing at the lake on my farm where I caught my first ever catfish. Day 28 and the final day of spring begins in the barn milking cocoa. I'm not going to get any more crops, so I cut down all the weeds and strawberry vines in preparation for tomorrow's crop planting, and now the field is nice and clear and full of opportunity. I then ran down to Flute Fields where the Animal Festival is underway. There are a bunch of competitions going on, but what I'm really here for is two things: perfect sheep butter and perfect wool, which I can purchase from Hannah. Of course, I tried my hand at the animal competition by entering Coco in, but I got last place, since I've only had her for a single season. Since I can't complete any of those quests that I bought those items for because of the festival, I spent the remainder of the final day of spring in the Garmin Mines, where I found myself some gold, copper, and rare ore on floor 31. I finished the day off and got a little surprise from Finn. Thanks to all my farming profits this season, I got my first title, Master Farmer. It isn't the ultimate farmer title I wanted, but hey, I'll definitely take 50 units of good fertilizer. I wake up on day 29, the first day of summer, and Hamilton is just in my house. He's just there. He congratulates me on becoming a master farmer and explains what I already knew about titles and rewards. Unfortunately, I went to bed with a full rucksack, so I'll have to sacrifice my catfish for the fertilizer that I got. Speaking of fertilizer, I immediately threw down the 50 units I had into the field and got it watered before heading over to the wizard's house to give him the perfect sheep's butter I bought at the Animal Festival yesterday. With that, the wizard finally had all the ingredients needed to make the potion to return the witch princess to her mortal form. We made our way to the center of Fugu Forest, where the wizard did some magic stuff, and now I can formally introduce you all to the final bachelorette candidate, the witch princess. Another bonus of bringing the witch princess back from frog form is the fact that she was in possession of another bell, the green bell. Lucky enough for me, I already know where the pedestal is for this one. So I ran over to the windmill at the Horn Ranch and got the green harvest sprite to ring the bell. The sweet summer air is injected with music as the surroundings of Horn Ranch are returned to normal. Now that I've concluded that little quest line, I can get back to farming by purchasing a bunch of watermelon seeds and getting those spread out on the farmland. Colleen the chicken has fully matured, so I grabbed my first ever homegrown chicken egg and went up to the accessory shop to do some refining. The highlights of this session were my first ever diamond, a solid bit of copper, and a single piece of gold. Over at the blacksmith, I purchased the iron upgrade for my remaining old tools, and then it's over to the general store, who has a medium fridge in stock. So I got that purchased, and now I have so much more room to store crops and forageables. I went back to Marimba Farms to get me some more seeds, including some onions, and I got those planted to fill out the field. As you can see, I'm still somewhat clumsy in the controls for this game. I spent the afternoon doing some fishing where I caught 3 catfish, the perfect amount needed to combine with a single herb in the oven to make the herb grilled fish that Eunice the giraffe wants. But completing that quest is a little too much for this first day of summer, so I just called it a day. I've got another farm friend hatched to start day 30, a little duckling named Clint. With that being said, today definitely won't be sunshine and rainbows, as a typhoon has made landfall in Harmonica Town, destroying quite a lot of my crops. I worked hard through the storm to get the field back to normal, and even got another chicken egg into the incubator. I provided Shelly with the perfect wool I bought on day 28, so that she could finally craft the final rucksack upgrade. I've now got space for 30 items. There's so much room for activities. After that brief moment of excitement, it's back to the lighthouse I go, where I give Eunice the herb grilled fish that I made last night, and she can finally rejoin Theodore at the circus. I went over to Marimba Farms to buy more watermelon seeds to replace the ones destroyed by the typhoon overnight, and I spent the remainder of this day doing some ore collecting in the Garmin mines and relaxing in the hot springs. I've got some mail to start up day 31. The blacksmith can now upgrade tools to silver and gold, and Theodore let me know that Eunice made her way back safely. I got cocoa milked and spent a bit of time this morning spamming my scythe to get that tool skill up to level 2. I bought some wheat from Ruth at Marimba Farms and took it over to the windmill to make some flour. Over at Horn Ranch, I purchased some butter and combined that with the flour and milk in the oven to make some homemade bread. I used the animal whistle outside the entrance to Fugu Forest, and out came a little elephant friend. In case you didn't know, elephants famously love bread. Don't fact check me on that, it's probably not true, it's just true in this universe. With that carbohydrate boost, Trunks the elephant can return to Theodore at the circus. There is one more circus animal that we need to find and feed. So I went to Horn Ranch to pick up some more butter and cheese, and then did another round of flour making by purchasing some wheat at Marimba Farms and utilizing the windmill. All of those ingredients get stowed away in the refrigerator, and then it's over to the Garmin mines to finish this day off by collecting some rare ore. Another day means another letter in my mailbox. Once again, it's Theodore to start day 32. The final circus animal, Humphrey the hippo, is lost and probably near a swamp. I'll remember that, but a nice rainy day means I don't have to water any crops, so I spent most of this day in the Garmin mines. Collecting ores whilst avoiding all these crazy gas effects is quite difficult, but I'm slowly getting used to it, and having these hot springs to relax in helps a lot too. Down at the watermill, I found Toby doing some fishing. After congratulating him on his fantastic angling skills, he mentioned that the land is plentiful once again. Fish are fishing and the watermill's working, and he's one of the many people in the valley who feel that your boy is personally responsible. Which he is, by the way. He's totally responsible. None of you are helping me, it's just me doing all this work. As day turns to night, I spent some time doing some foraging down by the beach, collecting some oysters, sakura shells, and mussels. It must have been a while since I've actually gone into the brass bar, since apparently they've been saving their grand opening for me. I mean, it's been like 2 whole weeks since I've rang the blue bell and Selena's come to town. But I'm not gonna be too mad at it. Kathy gave me some treats on the house, so who am I to say no? And that's how day 32 came to a close. My first harvest of the season is ready on day 33. I picked up some tea leaves and made sure that my watermelons were watered before going into the kitchen to make some new dishes, starting with a boiled egg and finishing with some green tea. Ruth at Marimba Farms sells me some more watermelon seeds, and then I stumbled upon this cute cutscene with the Horn Ranch family. They're enjoying the summer breeze and all the benefits the green bell ringing has brought back to them, ignorant of the fact that yours truly is a reason for all their happiness. Over at the church, Perry mentioned that he's heard a weird noise coming from the side rooms at 2 a.m. and that there's a bell in there. Obviously, that's of great interest to me, the bell ringing man. To kill some time before 2 a.m., I collected some ores in the Garmin mines, and to this day, this haul of 3 rare ore on floor 28 is my best ever mining session. As the clock struck 2 a.m., I entered the church and found a frightened Perry running for his life in fear of a ghost. Turns out it's just Edge, the purple harvest sprite, crying his eyes out because he doesn't have any friends and all the villagers stopped making wishes. You can make wishes at the Wishing Shrine, who would have thunk it, which is in the room on the opposite side of the church. Finn and I have no clue what we're doing, so we default to asking the harvest goddess for advice. And she says that I need to ask 10 people what they wish for. But first, I have to befriend them by getting them up to 3 hearts. which is no easy task in this game whatsoever. So I went to bed with that looming albatross of having to befriend 10 people weighing on my mind. Hamilton is once again at my front door the morning of day 34, informing me of the impending Firefly Festival. I still don't have anyone to take, so I'll be going stag. My first crop of watermelons are ready for harvest, so I get those plucked out and put in the shipping bin. Then it's time to get a whole bunch of tomatoes wet. But the most interesting development is that I upgraded my watering can skill to level 3. I got Coco milked in the barn, and she now has 5 hearts, and I can finally ride one of my animals. I took her out into the field and took my first ever ride. Cows move about 30% faster than regular running speed, so this should make traversing the map much easier, even if I look pretty silly doing it. I gave Renee some warm milk, one of her favorite gifts, and Kane a mussel as I worked to making those 10 friends. I ordered 60 more watermelon seeds from Ruth at Marimba Farms, and then gave Anissa some herbal tea. I sewed a bunch of those seeds in the empty squares, and then ran to the clinic to give Jin an extra large body geyser, his favorite gift. Both Hayden and Ozzy are big fans of sea urchins, and Pascal and Paolo really love oysters. Jake and Colleen are adults, so of course they enjoy a nice cocktail, and Owen gets all his protein from these boiled eggs. Then it was over to the mines to give Calvin a cocktail, and crush some rocks to reveal some ores and wonderfuls to collect. A refining session at the accessory shop was the final thing on the list for today. I had a whole bunch of ores to break down, and I finally got my first rare metal, along with some gold, copper, silver, and a whole bunch of gems from the White Wonderfuls, including a diamond, which instantly got dumped into the shipping bin. I ended day 34 by making a whole bunch of money. Hamilton is in my mailbox once again, this time trying to sell me new properties on day 35. I hit up the coop and collect some fresh eggs, then it's over to the field where my tomatoes have ripened, and I make sure to keep one for a special quest later on. Today I learned that my aquatic birds aren't fans of water, before giving Jin another extra large body geyser. If I'm going to befriend 10 people, it's going to take a long time looking at the current heart levels of these villagers. The Firefly Festival is later on this evening, so I killed some time collecting some ores and wonderfuls at the Garmin Mines, and then ran down to the riverbed to take part in the festivities. Of course, I'm not friendly enough with anyone to have a date yet, so I just hung out with Perry, where he yapped about stuff I didn't feel like paying attention to. I received my first ever shining quality milk from Coco to start day 36. I had a solid watermelon harvest yesterday, so I bought some more seeds this morning, and then got those spread out. Today I learned that almost every store in Harmonica Town is closed on Sundays. And of course, I caught myself a cold in the mines today, so that's some amazing luck. Unsarcastically, what actually is amazing luck is the fact that I got a diamond from only 19 White Wonderfuls during my refining session. Since the clinic is closed today, I'll have to pay double for that cold medicine over the phone. That illness really took it out of me, so I decided to hit the hay early. Another chicken friend has hatched to start day 37, and I gave her the most morbid name possible, Crispy. But don't worry, little Crispy won't meet such an ominous fate. There really isn't much to mention today since most of it was spent in the Garmin Mines, but if I'm going to get all 6 tools to goddess level, I'm gonna need a lot of rare ore with my refining luck. The blue-haired bachelorette Candace woke me up on day 38 and gave me some good silk yarn. Gee, thanks Candace, I really appreciate it. I'm totally not gonna sell that. I get the crops watered in the morning and do a little bit of beach foraging before going to Marimba Farms to purchase some more watermelon seeds before my next harvest. Once again, the rest of the day was pretty much entirely spent in the mines looking for as many ores as my little hands could carry. I collected some fresh duck eggs in the coop to start day 39, and in the barn, Carl has finally matured to a healthy, full-size sheep. The fertilizer is working its magic as I have yet another crop of watermelons needed to be picked, and I get those vacant squares populated with seeds that I bought yesterday. Of course, I gotta get some nice moisture over all of my juicy gourds, and this harvest should net me a very nice profit. Now that I have a rideable animal, I can talk to Kane at Horn Ranch and practice my jockey skills. I have no clue why anyone would enter a race with a cow, but Coco is the only option for me. Side note, I really like this horse race minigame in Animal Parade. It's much more interesting and fun than even the remade Friends of Mineral Town horse racing game. Completely ignore the fact that I lost this practice race. I'll eventually get a horse and have my revenge against Selena, Hannah, Pascal, and Ramsey. All that racing really took it out of me, so I hit up the hot spring and then get back into the Garmin mines to get those ores and wonderfuls. After combining my loot from a couple of mining sessions for refining, I got myself a couple topaz gems, a diamond, some bricks of silver metal, and a little bit of gold to end the day. I chose to start day 40 by doing my farm chores, plucking some watermelons, sowing some seeds, and getting everything nice and watered before checking my mailbox where the Ocarina Inn has some new dishes on the menu. I'm pretty flush with cash these days, so I bought a bell and shears, as well as doing a complete restock on feed and fodder from Horde Ranch. Down at the wharf, I ran into Ozzy, who put me on a little side quest to do some ocean recycling. But not just any recycling, this guy's asking me to fish out 279 pieces of trash and algae, so that's going to take quite a long time. I don't have time for all that mess right now, since Carl needs her first shear. Turns out Carl doesn't like getting her hair cut, so I probably won't do that again. I then went over to 𝐕𝐢𝐝 Forest. Yes, I've been mispronouncing Fugue all this time. Shout out to ts_KINA in the Discord server, which all of you should totally join, by the way, hint hint nudge nudge, for letting me know I was pronouncing it wrong. Anyways, I chopped some wood in 𝐕𝐢𝐝 Forest, and then gave the witch princess a 𝐕𝐢𝐝 mushroom, one of her favorite gifts. I then utilized the hot spring to regain some stamina, and then spent the entire evening spamming my hoe tool to get experience points. Sonata Tailoring and the Brass Bar have some ads in my mailbox to start day 41. And over in the barn, Carl looks really sad being all naked and exposed to the world, so I give her some pets. I then ran out into the field to harvest some watermelons and water my growing gourds, and I made some hot milk in the kitchen and gifted that to Renee, before grabbing some more watermelon seeds at 𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵 Farms. I can't lie, I was tempted by Shelly's mail ad this morning, so I went down to town to look at the new merchandise she's got in stock, but nothing is speaking to me today. I spent the entire rest of the day in 𝐕𝐢𝐝 Forest, leveling up my axe and collecting some wood, before jumping into bed for a good night's rest. Anissa almost broke down my door on day 42, as she gifted me with some herbal tea to start my day. All of the watermelons I planted in the non-fertilized spaces are ripe today, so I get those harvested and get all 71 dropped into the shipping bin. Of course, I get all those squares repopulated, then run over to 𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵 Farms to re-gift that herbal tea to Anissa. Today was another all-day mining session, culminating in a rare extra-large body geyser drop from this little mole dude. I've got another ad in my mailbox on day 43. 𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵 Farms is now selling shining fertilizer, which will definitely come in handy later. But other than that, today's a pretty short day, as all I really did was my farm chores and doing another run in the Garmin mines, getting my hammer skill XP, and looking for ores. Day 44 is the day before the summer festival, so Hamilton is up bright and early to tell me about the fishing competition for tomorrow. Crispy has finally matured now that I can collect eggs from her, and then I grabbed my first churn of sheep's milk from Carl at the barn. A solid batch of watermelons are ready for harvest. Then I got all the growing crops watered before running down to Hamilton's to make my first ever massive purchase. A new plot of farmland, the river plot, for 70,000 G. Before getting started on that plot, I gave Candace a herbal tea and got her up to 3 hearts, and I have received my first ever wish for the purple bell. Making wishes is super easy. Just head up to the wishing shrine in the church, get on your knees, and the power of magic will start coloring this little picture. Wishmaking aside, I can finally get started on my new plot of land, which has an additional 100 farmable squares. So I spent the afternoon tilling out the entire area, and then went over to 𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵 Farms to purchase a whole bunch of tea seeds. With an extra field to work on, a break in the hot springs is definitely needed, so that I have the required stamina to plant and water all these soon-to-be tea saplings before the day ends. Since day 45 is a festival day, I utilized Taylor seeds to purchase the remaining 30 seeds I need to fill up the river plot. I get all of those new seeds watered and harvest the ripe watermelons in what I will now be calling the original field. Those watermelons are placed in the shipping bin, then it's down to the beach where the fishing competition has begun. Once again, I don't think I'm doing these festivals right, and I feel like I'm missing events. I honestly don't know how this competition is judged either, but I got second place, so I'll definitely take those free 10 body jazzers as a reward to end the day. An important piece of mail landed in my mailbox on day 46. Horn Ranch now sells bowls. But unfortunately, it's a Wednesday, so the ranch is closed anyways. I get some sashimi placed into the shipping bin along with the 10 body jazzers I won yesterday, and then do my farm chores that consist of harvesting some tea leaves at the river plot, ordering more watermelon seeds for delivery, and getting those sown into the original field. Today's trip into the garden mines was solely focused on collecting wonderfuls, since they make you the most money after refining. I was able to get around 50 white wonderfuls, which only translated into 10 crystals, a handful of opals, and a single diamond, but going to bed 13,000 G richer isn't a bad return. The morning of day 47 is just filled with farm chores, collecting eggs from the coop, milking cocoa for some delicious white liquid, harvesting some green tea leaves, and using a silver can to put water on some dirt. I deposited 7 units of tea leaves into the shipping bin, then ran over to Horn Ranch to purchase my brand new horse baby, who I named Charles. While I'm over on this side of the map, I decided to top off on feed and fodder from the ranch and pick up more tea seeds at Marimba Farms, before doing yet another run in the Upper Garmin mines. Before the clock hit midnight, I remembered to sow those tea leaves I bought this afternoon. Yet another bachelorette is at my door the morning of day 48. This time, it's Renee with a gift of a good chicken egg. Allow me to formally introduce all of you to my new large animal friend, Charles, and then it's out into the field where I make the money that pays for all the animal husbandry supplements that's going to turn Charles into a Triple Crown winning steed. Down at Marimba, I gave Anissa the final herbal tea needed to get her to trust me enough to tell me her wish. A happy family. I bought more tea seeds from Anissa's mom and then got them sown and watered in the river plot before running down to Harmonica Town, where Jin is happy to tell me that his wish is for everyone to be healthy. To finish the day off, I went to the wishing shrine to relay those aspirations, and the little painting thingy is starting to look way more colorful. I'm whipping up some green tea in the kitchen to kick off day 49, and today's a stormy day, so I checked on my coop animals and collected some eggs before running out into the rainstorm to collect my ripe watermelons. Since we're coming up to the end of the season, I purchased the tea seeds for the original field, since they don't take that long to grow, and then made my way up to the Garmin mines using the mine cart. I finally have enough money saved up to upgrade my fishing rod and hammer to silver, so I do that, then run over to the accessory shop and got super lucky by refining 3 rare metals from only 11 ore. It's been a while since I last did a watery cave run, so I got myself a couple of wonderfuls down there, then ran into Chase at the Brass Inn. Essentially, I started a quest line where I have to make food for him to judge, starting with stuff made with a cutting board. But that sounds like a mission for another day, so I went to bed and made my 19,000 G. It's been a couple of days without some mail, so I'm excited to see that the general store and carpenter shop have new products on day 50. I grabbed myself some shiny milk from Coco in the barn, and then it's over to the river plot to harvest all my leaf soup ingredients. I get the field watered, then purchase some more seeds from Taylor over the phone that instantly get sown. The hot springs are calling my name this morning, so I take a quick dip before hitting this sick collateral hammer swing in the watery cave. Since the circus is in town today, I went to the church grounds to see that Trunks and Eunice did make it back to Theodore nice and safe, and then I finished the day off by making some sleepy time tea and hitting the sack. Colleen laid her first ever shining egg to start day 51, and then it's over to the barn, where I've reached 5 hearts with Carl the sheep and can now use her as a mount. I made sure that all my watermelons were watered and harvested the ripe ones before ringing out my animals for the day. Today was a special ringing since I got a power berry, signaling that I've got my first ever animal, Coco, to 10 hearts of friendship. I then took my first ride on the back of Carl, who moves about as fast as a cow, but I definitely look like less of an idiot riding the sheep. I picked up some more tea seeds from Ruth at Marimba Farms, got those planted at the river plot, and then spent the remainder of day 51 in the Garmin mines looking for ores and wonderfuls. The morning of day 52 is upon us. I got some watermelons harvested, some tea saplings watered, and more seeds purchased from Ruth, and got those seeds sown in the original field. The exciting bit today comes where I spent money. Barbara informed me that they had some new goods in stock, so I bought a large refrigerator, and then ran over to Dale the carpenter to buy a medium-sized shelf. I got both of those bad boys placed in my house, and now I have almost double the storage space for crops, and I finally have a place to house my ores, metals, and wonderfuls. I didn't have much else to do today, so I just called it there and went to bed early. I got myself an advertisement from the Brass Bar to kick off day 53. Coco had some shining milk for me in the barn, and a solid group of tea leaves are ready for harvest. Today is the last day I can plant tea leaves before the season ends and still be able to harvest them, but since it's Wednesday, I'll have to pay double from Taylor Seeds delivery. Even paying double is worth it, so I get those seeds thrown down and watered, then run to the inn to give Jake a cocktail. I finally got him up to 3 hearts and received his wish for everyone to treat plants and animals with care and kindness. Speaking of wishes, Perry has also become my friend, and his wish is for a world without suffering where everyone's rights are respected. How noble of you, Perry. But the friendship train isn't over yet, as Owen has reached 3 hearts as well. He wished for eternal strength, so definitely not as altruistic as our local pastor. To finish off the day, I got down on my knees and relayed these wishes at the wishing shrine, and now I only have 4 more wishes to go. I spent the morning of day 54 in the kitchen, turning my decent and good tea leaves into green tea since the beverage sells for more than the raw goods. In the original field, I got my final harvest of watermelons plucked from the ground, and then went over to the river plot to grab some more tea leaves. With all these crops in the shipping bin, I'm expecting a pretty good payday tonight, and I make sure to get any remaining tea saplings watered before running over to the barn at Horn Ranch and gifting Renee with some hot milk. That hot milk got her up to 3 hearts, and her wish is for things to stay as they are. I was able to befriend Brass Bar owner Hayden, and his wish is my favorite of the bunch. I'd like to have a face that doesn't scare the kids away. Anyway, I can take all those wishes to the wishing shrine and get them deposited. I then run over to the watery caves where I spent the remainder of my day finding wonderfuls. And then as I slept, over 33,000 G entered my bank account thanks to all those watermelons and tea leaves. I'm back in the kitchen making more green tea to start day 55. In the coop, I picked up a shining duck egg and gave Calvin some well-needed pets. And then it's out to the original field, where a whole bunch of tea leaves are ready for harvest. I got the remaining crops watered over at the river plot, then it was over to the accessory shop to do some refining. From only 20 purple wonderfuls, I got 4 spinels, or spinels, however you pronounce it, and 2 amethysts, so all in all, pretty good luck today. At the blacksmith, I upgraded all of my iron tools to copper level for the not-so-low price of 42,000 G, but hey, now every tool I have is at least copper quality. Down at the wharf, I've given Ozzy enough oysters to befriend him and receive his wish for clean rivers, lakes, and oceans teeming with fish. And then I got the final 10th wish by befriending Paolo. I collected his wish to find and visit Atlantis, and took it to the wishing shrine where the little goddess painting has been restored with the magic power of wishes. With those 10 wishes deposited, Finn and I can make our way to Edge's purple bell and get him to ring the final of 5 bells, as another wave of music and wonder rains down upon the citizens of Harmonica Town. I took a quick minecart trip up to the Garden Mines district and ran over to the goddess pond where the harvest goddess thanks me for ringing the 5 bells. But wait, the goddess tree is still dying. Our journey in getting everything back to normal continues as we need the help of the Harvest King. But in order to summon him, I need to be, at minimum, a hero title farmer. To finish the day off, the Harvest Sprites teleport their way to the mountaintop, where they will wait for me to achieve that hero farmer status. Day 56 begins in the mailbox as Ocarina Inn has some new menu items, and Hamilton is peddling more property I can't afford. I get the birds fed in the coop and check up on Charles in the barn, before running out into the original field to harvest my final crop of tea leaves and get the hoe out to prepare my land for the incoming fall crop. Since it's the last day of summer, I made sure to collect the raspberry forageables in flute fields and spent the entirety of my day making green tea in the kitchen. It's quite tiring turning those 63 tea leaves into a delicious hot beverage, but I made a solid bit of money from that tea, and as summer turned to fall, I earned the title of Super Farmer, meaning I can now summon the Harvest King. I also got 80 units of perfect fertilizer, which isn't too shabby. The first day of fall, day 57, begins in the coop, making sure I got happy birds. I move over to the barn to collect some milk from Coco, and then I beeline it to the Garmin mines. I traverse the 45 floors needed to make it all the way to the mountaintop, and join the Harvest Goddess and Harvest Sprite at the pedestal. With everyone here and my new status as Super Farmer achieved, we can combine the melody of all 5 bells and pray to the great above. Another way too bright flash of light later, the Harvest King, wrapped in shiny sparkling red lights, descends upon the world, and he looks pissed. We all run down to the sanctuary where the Harvest King uses his superior magic power to restore the tree and bring it back to life as it is enveloped in green energy. Now we have officially saved the goddess and restored the valley. Thus, the goddess tree was revived and nature was restored. The people were so thankful and vowed to protect nature so it would not be lost again. The 5 bells restored with the help of a human will echo on forever. With all that being completed, I have officially accomplished my first goal of ringing all 5 bells and finishing the story. With that being said, there is still so much to do. So Finn and I chat while watching the sunset and put an end to day 57. However, if I knew that finishing the main questline would have just ended the day outright, I definitely would have planted some stuff, but them's the breaks. A super exciting item is in my mailbox on day 58. The blacksmith can now craft goddess level tools now that the Harvest King is back. I also get some mail from the king himself asking me to meet up with him, but that's whatever. Today I need to make up for losing pretty much all of day 57, so I'm in the original field getting it prepped for new fall crops by scything weeds and tilling squares, then utilizing those 80 units of perfect fertilizer I got for becoming a super farmer. Funnily enough, the most profitable crop for fall isn't even a crop at all. It's a blue mist flower. So I get about 240 of those purchased along with some other seeds, and then make the all-important purchase of a single bell pepper. I get all of those seeds planted in the field, and then it's over to the kitchen where I start by combining flour and butter to make pie crust. And then I take that pie crust and add some cheese, tomato from the summer crop, potato from spring, and the newly purchased bell pepper to make a veggie pizza. I speed ran through Fugue Forest and blew my animal whistle near the swamp by the witch's hut, and Humphrey the hippo surfaced. I provide the hungry hippo with the pizza, and now our deadly friend can return to Theodore at the circus. But more importantly, I can cross out another goal off my list. I made my way over to the blacksmith and purchased my first ever goddess tool, the goddess watering can. When fully powered up, this baby can water 20 crops at once, which is really nice. That evening, I ran into the wizard, who is super sad after losing his crystal ball. So Finn and I decide that we'll help our boy out and find it for him. But that's another quest for another day, as I put a lid on a very eventful day 58. I received confirmation on day 59 that Humphrey the hippo made it home safely, then ran into the barn to collect some milk from Coco. Behold the power of the goddess watering can. It still takes forever to water everything, but at least it's efficient. Fun fact, Luna doesn't like cocktails, so don't try to give her any. Give them all to Kathy instead. She loves them. I gave Shelly some herbal tea and Selena a cocktail, then ran into the inn where Colleen said her husband is acting strange. I talked to Jake and he's adamant nothing's wrong and that he's just trying to give her everything she wants. But Finn is convinced that Jake is using the wizard's crystal ball to read minds. But once again, that sounds like a lot of work, so I just bought a boat ticket to escape to Toucan Island. As I touched down on the island, I gave Sue a cocktail, which she loves, and did some foraging for bananas and coconuts. Samson is also a big fan of cocktails, so I gave him one, then sailed back home. Ramsey likes green tea quite a bit, as does Mira. Julius loves himself a cocktail, and Luke is also a part of the cocktail club. Bo's more of a herbal tea guy, and so is Dale the carpenter. I decided to help out the Harvest King and made my way up to the top of the mountain once again. He said he's looking for someone with a pure heart, but apparently I don't know anyone with a heart of gold outside myself. But just in case I stumble upon anyone that fits that description, the Harvest King uses his magic power to light up the little sigils on this rock. And now I have a little quick travel option to get up and down the mountain, which is pretty handy. As I was trying to sleep, Finn just can't wait to get on my nerves, and he doesn't know what he needs to focus on to give his life purpose. But of course, I've got the answer for him, which is just caring for others, and he assures me he can do it. I guess I caught a cold yesterday getting to the top of the mountain, so I start day 60 by chugging some cold medicine. I got some perfect sheep's milk from Carl in the barn and got my blue mist flowers misted at the river plot before doing some ore hunting in the 𝐷𝐵𝐼 mines. I had a decent haul today, so I did some refining and got myself a bit of silver and gold metal as well as a topaz. Like Luna, Gil also doesn't like cocktails, but I love me some cold medicine if you know what I mean.
Sir, you're ill.
Thank you.
I start off day 61 by making sure that all of my birds and large animals are happy and healthy. Here's a peek at my friendship levels with all the animals in case you were curious. And I had my first round of flowers ready for plucking today. The cool thing about flowers and Animal Parade is that they attract bees that can give you honey and royal jelly, which are amazing gifts. I got all those picked flowers into the shipping bin and watered the dry spots near the river farm before running over to Marimba to pick up more blue mist seeds and some fertilizer. Because these flowers grow 4 days faster in perfect soil, it is absolutely worth it to get your soil up to level 5 fertilization in all your fields when growing blue mist flowers. I did the math, and the difference between level 1 soil and level 5 soil is around 600,000 G, taking seed and fertilizer costs into account. I spent the afternoon doing some foraging down by the beach, and then ran up to the 𝐷𝐵𝐼 Mines district and utilized my new teleport runes to get to the top of the mountain. I had a quick dip in the hot springs before doing a nice little mining session where I caught another cold. I decided that today was the last day I go to the mines without cold medicine in reserve. So I took the minecart to Harmonica Town and purchased 10 cold medicines from Irene at the clinic. Fun fact, one of Gil's favorite gifts is the royal jelly that you can get from the bees, so I gave him one of those and then ran home to go to bed. Just look at all that flower bunny roll in. Doesn't it bring a tear to your eye? Just me? Okay. Charles the horse has fully matured on day 62, but I still need to get him up to 5 hearts to ride him around town. I got my flowers watered in the original field, then ran down to Marimba Farms to purchase more fertilizer. After you water the soil, it's really difficult to figure out what squares need fertilizer, so I spent more time than I'm proud of making sure I got every square fertilized. I spent most of this day in Fugue Forest, utilizing my brand new copper axe and cutting down some trees. I'm gonna need a lot of wood to get all the coop, barn, and house upgrades, so it's better to start on that sooner than later. That evening, I went down to the Ocarina Inn, where I found my pal Jake has been corrupted by the power of the wizard's crystal ball. He's able to read minds, but it made him go certified psycho status. The wizard eventually meets us at the inn to retrieve his magic item, but Jake goes full Smeagol mode to protect his precious. The wizard then uses the power of reverse psychology to convince Jake that he doesn't need to read everyone's mind and return the item to its rightful owner. The wizard then thanks me for my effort in getting his crystal ball back for him, and I end the day by running over to his house where he rewards me by allowing me to use his crystal ball whenever I see fit. I start off day 63 in the coop collecting some shiny chicken and duck eggs, then make my way to the original field where I've got a lot of ripe crops, including a carrot, which is important for later, some spinach, a bundle of grapes, a bell pepper, a yam, an eggplant, and some rice to finish it off. Over at the river plot, a whole bunch of flowers are ready to be harvested, and I even got some shining honey and royal jelly from this round of plucking. Getting all these 142 flowers into the shipping bin should result in a pretty decent payday. I ran down to Marimba Farms to purchase another stack of blue mist seeds and decent fertilizer for the not so low price of 10,000 G. I then get those seeds planted, fertilized, and watered in the river plot. I spent the remainder of this day in the 𝐷𝐵𝐼 Mines finding ores and wonderfuls, but I had too many items in my backpack to be able to do any refining. So I called it a day and watched some blue mist money roll into my bank account. Day 64 begins in the original field where my pumpkin has finally ripened. I got a whole bunch of flowers picked, watered the budding stems, and then did some fall foraging in Flute Fields. I bought some more fertilizer and blue mist seeds from Ruth and took care of planting those in the river plot, then spent the remainder of the day once again in the upper 𝐷𝐵𝐼 Mines, dodging annoying gas effects and collecting wonderfuls. Today though, I made sure I had enough room in my rucksack to do a massive refining session. I got myself 14 pieces of amber, 1 topaz gem, 5 crystals, and 4 opals, all of which went straight into the shipping bin before I jumped into bed. I've got a really short day 65, so listen close or you might miss it. I watered the moondrop seeds that I planted by accident, laid down some blue mist seeds in the original field, did some quick clam foraging down by the beach, and did a watery cave mining session. See? Pretty quick. The morning of day 66 begins by checking up on my feathered friends in the coop, then heading out to the river plot to harvest all of my ready moondrop and blue mist flowers. I utilized my goddess watering can to put some moisture in the soil, then sow some more flower seeds in the original field. I bought myself the silver axe upgrade today from Ramsey at the blacksmith, then went over to Fugue Forest to collect some wood. I did so much chopping that I now have 104 pieces of lumber, enough to purchase the level 2 house upgrade. While I was there, I also got myself the large storage shelf and got that placed down. My new kitchen, which now has 4 spots for utensils, got repopulated before having my first sleep in my new big bed. Unfortunately, farm chores aren't going to do themselves, so I'm back in the fields to start day 67, plucking flowers, sowing seeds, and watering the soil before running back up to Dale's carpenter shop to purchase the country interior for my house upgrade, so it looks a little bit more like it did when it was at level 1. I really had no reason for doing this, it's just much more pleasing to my eyes. I spent the remainder of this day doing a mining session in the Upper Garmin mines. I crushed a lot of rocks and gems, and was able to collect a whole bunch of wonderfuls and rare ores. The highlight of this refining session were 3 topaz gems and 1 diamond. My first bit of mail in a while is from the accessories shop to start day 68. They can now craft more accessories now that I've shipped 50,000 G worth of mine items. In the river plot, I get the growing flowers watered and pick the fully grown blue mist, then run over to Marimba Farms to purchase more seeds. I get those planted in the original field and then do some more clam foraging by the beach. I had some money burning a hole in my pocket, so I went to Shelly's tailor shop and bought out every clothing item she had in stock. Guess who's the best dressed guy in town now? That's right, it's me, ya boy. I decided to instantly get my new fit dirty to finish off day 68 by teleporting to the mountaintop and doing a solid mining session. The Moon Festival is tomorrow, so of course Mayor Hamilton is at my door to start day 69 to tell me about it. The Moon Festival is one of the romantic festivals where you can take a bachelorette, but for now, I'm just gonna be a lonely boy that picks flowers. I went down to Marimba Farms and bought more blue mist seeds and fertilizer, then got all those seeds planted. The soil was fertilized and watered before I ran over to the accessory shop to do the refining I wanted to do yesterday, but couldn't because it was a Thursday. I got myself 1 topaz gem, 2 amethysts, a whopping 14 silver metal, and 2 pieces of gold metal. I took all that silver over to the blacksmith and upgraded my sickle and hoe, and now all 6 of my tools are at least silver quality. Today I realized I haven't used my fishing rod since I got it to silver quality, so I spent the evening fishing by the beach, where I caught myself an octopus for the first time, as well as hooking a conger eel to end the day. Day 70, the day of the Moon Festival, begins in the fields harvesting and watering blue mist flowers. I went down to the lighthouse beach and caught myself a delicious cod, then killed some time in the watery cave mines, collecting wonderfuls. As the moon came into view, I rode Carl the sheep down to Flute Fields, and ended a very short day 70 by enjoying a picnic in the moonlight. My first ever bird, Calvin, reached max hearts on day 71, and I also got my first shining chicken egg from Crispy. I got my budding flowers watered, then went into my shelf to collect some green and purple wonderfuls to refine. From this session, 2 amethysts, 5 paradots, 3 jades, and a single emerald that all get tossed into the shipping bin isn't too bad. Today was another fishing day, as I caught some cod at the beach, and my first rockfish on floor 50 of the watery cave mine before calling it a day and making just under 20,000 G. To start off day 72, I'm scything down some weeds and collecting some blue mist flowers to place in the shipping bin. I bought myself some fertilizer from Marimba Farms and then galloped down to Harmonica Town to make another massive purchase. 150,000 G towards the farm plot. Now I'm going to call this the Oceanside plot since it's closest to the ocean. This plot has got space for an extra 200 crops, so it took quite a bit of time and energy to get this plot fully tilled. I utilized the fertilizer I bought earlier in the original field before hopping on Pascal's boat to head over to Toucan Island. I collected some bananas and coconuts, then had my first ever fight with a kingfish, the barracuda. This fish not only is pretty expensive, but also gives the most fishing XP out of any fish in the game. That means it costs a lot of stamina to reel in. So much so that I had to chug an extra large body geyser to keep fishing, where I caught my first ever shark as well. As day turned to night, I took the boat back home and dropped off my fresh catch of the day in the shipping bin and made close to 50,000 G overnight. This is a moment I've been waiting for a long time. Charles is finally able to be ridden on day 73. So I speed run through my early morning farm chores of plucking flowers and prepping the river plot, and go on my first ride with Charles, which is lightning fast compared to the cow, sheep, and just walking around. The game really should have just given you a free rideable horse on day 1, in my opinion. I purchased 450 blue mist flower seeds for the low price of 22,000 G, but don't worry, after planting every single one of these bad boys, they'll eventually be worth 175,000 G, so it was very aesthetically pleasing to have 3 whole fields of flowers ready to make me money. I got my money flowers watered and then went over to Fugue Forest to chop some wood, and then I got some more fertilizer placed in the soil before calling it an early day. Day 74 was a rainy one, so I am in the coop hand feeding my animals once again. I decided to learn how to use the bell today, but failed and accidentally brought out my animals into the pouring rain, which got 3 of my birds sick. To add fuel to the fire, it was actually a Wednesday, so I had to pay double for the animal medicine over the phone to heal my little bird buddies. But it was worth every penny because 1, I'm not a psychopath, and 2, my chickens can be healthy again. I am a psychopath for rare ores though. I spent the remainder of day 74 crushing rocks looking for them. After collecting all the rare ores I've been hoarding, I was able to successfully refine 5 rare metal from about 20 rare ores, and I also got a couple topaz gems, so it's a pretty lucky way to end day 74. To start day 75, I checked on all my birds to make sure they recovered from their illness the day before, then went out to water my budding blue mist flowers. Even though I have a goddess watering can and a handful of power berries, I still need to utilize the hot springs with all these crops I have to water. As I was chopping more wood in Fugue Forest, I got my axe skill up to level 3, then decided to visit Toucan Island. All that wood chopping took it out of me, so I downed an extra large body geyser, then got to fishing. Even with that large bar of stamina, a barracuda managed to take all of it out of me before I was able to hook the bastard. So I ran home with my tail between my legs and cooked up some perfect sashimi to end the day. The flowers from the river plot and original field are ready for plucking on day 76, and it takes a really long time to collect all of them. This footage is sped up about 50 times, and it still takes about 10 seconds to harvest every single one. But that being said, they will fetch a nice profit when I ship them off. I ran down to Marimba Farms for a blue mist seed restock and got those thrown down in the river plot utilizing the power of rain to make my job a little bit easier. With the energy I had left, I collected some wonderfuls in the upper garment mines and did a little refining session, highlighted by 5 pieces of gold metal and 1 diamond. But the big payoff today were those 250 blue mist flowers I shipped off for almost 100,000 G. I'm back in the coop to start day 77, where my birds have some more shining eggs for me. I get all the budding flowers watered in the Oceanside plot, then grab another 200 blue mist seeds in advance since I know Marimba Farms will be closed for tomorrow's circus. I took a quick dip in the hot spring, then ran up to Dale's carpenter shop to make 2 more massive purchases, the level 2 coop and level 2 barn. The expanded coop now has room for 8 birds, and the upgraded barn can hold 5 livestock in total. Because I had the extra space now, I decided to purchase 2 more fully grown cows, Candy and Crayon. Now that I have 0 wood, I spent the remainder of the day in Fugue Forest, getting my reserves back to a healthy amount. I've got some mail to start day 78. The general store now has a cheese and mayonnaise maker in stock, but I'm not all too interested in buying those at this point, as I have to befriend my new cows. A handful of blue mist flowers and some fertilized soil are ready for harvest. Then I get all the soil watered before killing some time in the garment mines collecting ores. That aforementioned time killing was in anticipation of the circus. Now that all the animals have been returned to Theodore, I can finally witness the proper routine. A zebra and monkey walk around on 2 feet, a lion juggles some beach balls with Theodore, Eunice the giraffe does some dope hula hoop moves, Trunks the elephant rides a bicycle, and Humphrey the hippo almost kills the ringmaster. Now that I've witnessed the pageantry of the circus with all 3 rescued animals, I can utilize my animal whistle to fast travel. All I have to do is pick a location, give the whistle a blow, and I'll get a cute little cutscene taking me where I want to be, which is back home, and that's how I end day 78. I kick off day 79 by checking on all my birds, then having a quick peek at my friendship levels, where I noticed that Carl and Colleen are now at max hearts. Today is another massive blue mist flower harvest day, so I spent so much in real life time just smashing the A button to grab all these flowers, then going over the entire field with the seeds to get even more flowers before the end of the season. All that button mashing is worth it though, seeing all those flowers go into the shipping bin. I did my first ever fast travel to Flute Fields with the help of Trunks the elephant, who can fly, by the way, which is totally awesome. But here I went down to Marimba Farms to purchase more seeds and fertilizer to put down in the river plot. The rest of the day was spent in the Garmin mines collecting gold ore and wonderfuls before calling it a day and watching the Blue Mist cash hit my account. A nice rainy day 80 means that my time spent in the field will only consist of picking flowers. Rainy days are perfect for mining, since you can get in super early and collect a bunch of ores and wonderfuls. Over at the accessory shop, I did some refining, headlined by a couple pieces of gold metal, 3 topaz gems, and 3 diamonds, which will be some great profit as I get them placed in the shipping bin. Since I made over 150,000 G yesterday, I decided to splash some more cash by purchasing the gold upgrade for my fishing rod, hammer, and axe, meaning I only have 7 more upgrades in total until I have all goddess level tools. Even after that spending spree, I had enough cash left over to purchase the level 3 coop upgrade from Dale. It still has the same amount of space for birds, but I've got these little wooden boxes now, which we'll discover what they do tomorrow. I used our good pal Humphrey to fast travel my way to the Fugue Forest, and spent the remainder of this day chopping trees for more wood. I start off day 81 in the mailbox, where I've got some ads from the general store and Horn Ranch. Having maxed out my coop means that silkworms and threading machines are now available for purchase. Another rainy day means Mother Nature did my crop watering for me, so I can spend the morning foraging at the beach and riding my giraffe pal Eunice to Harmonica Town. To escape the dreary weather, I popped into Pascal's boat and did some relaxing fishing at Toucan Island, where I caught my first ever tuna, along with my first ever swordfish. That little excursion was fun, but I have to go back home at some point, and I spend the remainder of day 81 looking for gold and rare ores in the mines. The Harvest Festival is tomorrow, so Hamilton is at my front door the morning of day 82, making sure I know that. Then it's over to the field where my 4th rainy day in a row makes my job much easier. All I have to do is pick some flowers and get them thrown into the shipping bin, and now I can do fun stuff, like purchasing my first ever silkworm, who I named Crody. While I'm in and around Flute Fields, I went over to Fugue Forest to cut down some trees, then relaxed in the hot springs a little bit, before heading to Shelly's tailor shop to purchase every single accessory she had in stock. I gave the wizard some delicious herbal tea, and found out the Harvest Sprites love mushrooms. I gave the Harvest Goddess one of her favorite gifts, a royal jelly, and I spent the afternoon doing a quick little mining session, and finished the day off by fishing down by the dock. On day 83, the day of the Harvest Festival, our pal Crody produced his first ever silk cocoon. Now that I have more space for birds, I put another duck egg in the incubator, then harvested my last crop of blue mist in the river plot. Over in the kitchen, I combined some fish to make some good sashimi, and then remembered I purchased a bunch of new accessories the other day. So I crafted a fresh fit, then ran down to Flute Fields to partake in the Harvest Festival. The big competition for me was the flower competition. Almost making 500,000 G of flowers this season, you better believe I got first place in this competition. My blue ribbon prize was 10 shining perfumes though, so that's not too bad. Unfortunately, I crashed out of all the other Harvest Festival competitions, so the only highlight of today was winning that flower competition. The final day of fall, day 84, begins in the barn, as I'm unable to feed my hungry cows. Marvelous, if you remake this game, please fix. It's so annoying. With all that flower money, I decided to buy myself every single maker machine from the general store, and spent the entirety of this last autumn day in the Garmin mines doing a bunch of mining. I didn't have any seeds to water or harvest, so it's not like I had anything better to do. The refining session that followed wasn't too bad either, since I got 3 rare metals, 3 topaz gems, and a single diamond that I chucked directly into the shipping bin. As I put the fall season to bed, I made a solid mining profit, but more important than that was the new title of Ultimate Farmer that I received from my pal Finn. Now I only need to get all the goddess tools to complete my list that I set out in the beginning of this video. I also got 90 shining fertilizer, but that's not that important. As I enter the bitter cold of winter on day 85, the accessory shop wrote to me to let me know that they can now turn the most expensive of gems into accessories. I had a bunch of eggs ready for collecting in the coop, and I learned that turning shining or perfect duck eggs into mayo actually cost me money, so that's not fun. The same can't be said for cheese and butter though, so that's actually really good to know. In the oceanside field, I utilized the 90 free shining fertilizer I got to turn this soil into level 5, then ran down to Marimba Farms to purchase even more, along with a metric ton of buckwheat seeds. While winter definitely isn't the best month for farming profit, utilizing buckwheat can be amazing if you're patient. So I get all those seeds sown and watered, then head up to the waterfall to say hello to the duck. Over at Dale's, I purchased the final upgrade to the barn, maxing out my large animal capacity at 8. I then went down to the beach to collect this season's forageable, laver seaweed, and then spent the remainder of this first day of winter fishing down by the beach. I'm back in the mailbox to start day 86, where my new barn upgrade has prompted the general store and horde ranch to add ostriches and an ostrich incubator to their respective ledgers. I get some milk from Candy the cow and get all my produce put into the shipping bin before getting my growing buckwheat plants watered. After a quick dip in the hot springs watching the snow fall, I went over to the Fugue Forest and utilized my golden axe to cut down trees super fast and get enough wood so that I could purchase the watermill building at Dale's carpenter shop, which will become super important later. At the general store, I purchased the ostrich incubator and ran back home to try and put my purchased ostrich egg in there with no success. I just assumed it didn't work because I bought the egg before the incubator, but we'll get back to that later. For now, I'm on my way to Toucan Island, where I caught myself a barracuda and some swim trunks some skinny dippers decided to recycle. Fun fact, you can utilize fast travel even at Toucan Island. I guess your character just swims across the ocean with a pig on his back. I combined my Toucan Island catch into some perfect sashimi, then ran down to the brass bar to give Selena a shining perfume, one of her favorite gifts. Before I was able to go to sleep, I heard a bump in the night. A snowman come to life named Rob Frost is looking for his carrot nose. Unfortunately, I didn't have the carrot in my rucksack, so I'll have to make sure I keep it in there for the next time that he shows up. On day 87, I made some silk yarn from one of Crowdy's cocoons, then watered some buckwheat stalks, before running over to the Horn Ranch where I attempted to buy an ostrich. Keyword there, attempted. Remember when I tried to use the ostrich incubator yesterday and couldn't? Well, that wasn't because I bought the ostrich egg before the incubator, it's because Animal Parade has one of the stupidest mechanics I've ever seen in a Harvest Moon game. You can only have 3 types of animals in your barn at one time. Why? Tell me why, Hannah. Honestly, this made me more mad than when Colin decided to skip his Harvest Sprite duties to celebrate the high holidays. So I ran to the hot springs to just calm down, chill out a little bit. But it turns out I was still a little upset, so I spent a good amount of time crushing rocks to get all that aggression. Speaking of mechanics I don't like, refining sucks, and I only got 9 ambers, but that perfect sashimi I made last night was earmarked as my dish to give Chase for judgment at the brass bar. Chase approved my perfect sashimi dish and gave me some pudding as a reward. But now I have to make a frying pan recipe, but there's no way I'm doing that today. Another day before a festival means Hamilton is once again loitering on my property to start day 88 to inform me about Harmony Day. I couldn't care less, Hamilton. I've got buckwheat stalks to water and wood to chop in the forest. Over at the clinic, I purchased an extra large body geyser and went to Toucan Island to do some more fishing. I caught my first ever mahi-mahi along with my first ever stingray before downing that extra large body geyser and catching yet another barracuda. I finished my fishing trip by catching a shark, and then I ran home to chop all of those little fishies into some shining sashimi to end the day. Day 89 is quick. I collected some milk from my cows, ran out into the field to water my buckwheat stalks, and spent the entirety of the remainder of this day in the mines looking to get gold and rare ores for future tool upgrades. I welcomed a new feathered friend to Fowl Farm to start day 90, a duck named Conrad. Horn Ranch is back in my mailbox advertising a goat that I can't buy because I already have 3 types of animals, so I don't know what they're doing. But the big thing today was my first ever buckwheat harvest. I planted 450 seeds, filling up all 3 farm plots, so there is a lot of crops to pick. I don't know how fast the footage is sped up. I'll put it on the screen so you can see how long it takes, but Jesus Christ, it took forever to get all this buckwheat harvested. Remember how I said you can make good money from buckwheat if you are patient? Well, this is how you do it. With the watermill, you can take all your buckwheat and smash it into soba flour. Not only does this increase your profit with shining buckwheat for about 15%, but the real magic comes on snowy days and blizzards. But we don't have that today, so I'll save that for later. All you have to know is that I only processed and sold the shining buckwheat today. Now that my fields are bare, I had to get some more seeds from Marimba Farms, get those bad boys and girls sown, and then finish off my chores by watering them. I took a quick dip in the mountaintop hot springs, then spent the afternoon in the 𝐲𝐵𝗱 mines getting more gold and rare ores. I had enough for a decent refining session today, and got myself a topaz gem, a couple diamonds, 4 pieces of gold metal, and 2 pieces of rare metal. All those valuable gems got tossed into the shipping bin, and then I ran into Hamilton outside my house as I was about to end the day. He told me to come with him, and I have no free will, so I did, and found all the boys gathered at someone's house for a surprise birthday party. Not only did they bake me a delicious cake, but I also got a present, a perfect apple, which I'm totally not gonna sell. Thanks, fellas, you're the best. As you can tell by the neutral-faced snowman in the top left of the screen, day 91 is a snowy day, which is exciting for me and should be exciting for you. Not because I get to turn some milk into butter or water my seeds or anything, but because I can show you how to use the power of snow. If you take perfect buckwheat and turn it into soba flour at the watermill on a snowy day, the magic power of winter upgrades the quality to shining soba flour, making almost 63% more money if you just deposit them into the shipping bin as if they were buckwheat. I then spent my evening doing some mining, but my refining session was super unlucky with a single topaz being the only decent item. I start off my farm chores on day 92 by making sure my birds are well fed. Then it's over to the barn where I use my cheese maker for the first time. The produce from animals really isn't that impressive in Animal Parade, but it's more valuable if you use those as gifts for villagers. The real money in this game is definitely in crops like buckwheat and blue mist flowers. It's been a while since I did some foraging, so I collected some seaweed down by the beach, then did some fishing on the bridge overlooking Flute Fields. I'm far too lazy to turn all of this into sashimi, so I just tossed it in the shipping bin and went to sleep. That aforementioned sleep was rudely interrupted by our good friend 𝐷𝐵 the snowman, but this time I've got a carrot he can use as a nose, so now he will give me some free stuff every day. Day 93 is the first day that 𝐷𝐵 can give me stuff, and an empty can definitely isn't something I would jump for joy about. But all in all, today's pretty boring, pretty short. All I did was make sure my crops were watered and do another mining session before it got late enough to go to sleep. Tomorrow is the Starry Night Festival, so Hamilton is up and at 'em early to let me know all about it to start day 94. This festival is pretty interesting though, since I'll be able to make a wish. 𝐷𝐵 provided me with some perfect spinach today, and I learned that Ruth really likes blue herbs. Since tomorrow is a Wednesday and a festival, I made sure to buy my seeds now, so I don't have to pay double over the phone. And then I got my buckwheat nice and wet, and took a ride with Pascal to Toucan Island, where I spent the entire day fishing for barracuda. Those were the only fish biting my line today, so I had to use an extra large body dragster to catch more than one. But as soon as you get another on the line, you just don't have enough stamina to catch 2 in a row, so that's kinda how I ended the day. 𝐷𝐵 gave me another empty can to start day 95. Then I got into the field where another round of buckwheat is ready for harvest. I got all of the empty soil and squares populated with more buckwheat seeds, and got everything watered. Then went over to the watermill to make some shining soba flour. All 18 of those get deposited in the shipping bin, and then I killed some time before the Starlight Festival in the 𝐲𝐵𝗱 mines. I utilized my animal whistle to get a quick ride from Trunks, and watch the shooting stars with Simon, and wish to dive deep into the water 3 times. After feeling the urge to dive into the water, I magically received a tarpon to end the day. I got another unit of perfect spinach from 𝐷𝐵 to start day 96, and I got my buckwheat stalks watered before taking my perfect buckwheat to the windmill to create shining soba flowers, as today was another snowy day. I've done so much mining this week, so I decided to go to Toucan Island today and catch some more fish. Today I got a total of 3 barracuda, all of which I sold and made 30,000 G. I get even more fish to start day 97. a 𝐎𝐮𝐭 from Rob Frost. I then ran into the barn where I can finally ride Crayon the cow. Even though I probably won't do that ever, it's still nice to see an animal get to 5 hearts. I got all my crops watered, then realized I haven't bought bird feed in a while, so I ran down to the Horn Ranch and bought a whole bunch. I then went back into the mines after that needed fishing break yesterday, and got a whole stack of yellow wonderfuls, which were refined down to 20 ambers, 6 topaz gems, 3 diamonds, and 4 rare metals. I ran over to the blacksmith where Ramsey upgraded my remaining silver tools to gold, and now that I have all my tools nice and golden, I got those expensive gems deposited into the shipping bin and made almost 17,000 G, just through mining. I got a rare drop from Rob Frost on day 98, a perfect ostrich egg. My farm chores this morning consist of feeding all my birds and keeping my large animals full, then getting all my buckwheat stalks moistened. As you can see by the very sad snowman in the top left, the exciting thing about today is that it's a blizzard. So I can take out all 722 decent and good buckwheat from storage and run over to the watermill where I get all of them turned into 𝐲𝐵 flour. During blizzard conditions, the watermill will double upgrade buckwheat, turning decent buckwheat into perfect 𝐲𝐵 flour and good buckwheat into shining 𝐲𝐵 flour, which is a 57 and 77% increase in profit respectively. Individually turning all 722 buckwheats into 𝐲𝐵 flour took almost 2 hours in real time. I could probably watch this entire video all the way through and still not be finished doing that. So I called it a day at 7:40 a.m. and made almost 240,000 G, thanks to the magic power of snow and 𝐲𝐵 flour. Day 99 is an amazing day, as I started by taking out 15 pieces of rare metal before receiving a rare amethyst from the snowman. I got all my buckwheat watered and finished off my entire to-do list for this video by purchasing the goddess upgrade for my last 5 tools, which cost 228,000 G. Shout out to 𝐲𝐵 flour sales. Now all my tools are nice and blue. I went over to the Garmin mines to test out my new powerful hammer, which isn't as powerful as I thought it would be, considering that this big rock is still here. But you know, it's whatever. I then took Humphrey down to Fugue Forest to test out my goddess axe, which can cut down a tree in one fully powered up axe swing, which is pretty sweet. The goddess fishing rod didn't help too much outside of being able to throw the bobber a lot farther away. Maybe that'll come in handy later, but now it's kind of just got me a boot. I purchased more buckwheat from Ruth at Marimba Farms, then spent the evening crushing rocks and gems in the Garmin mines. Day 100 and the final day of this video begins by harvesting my final round of buckwheat in the original field, sowing a whole bunch more of buckwheat seeds in the oceanside field, and then getting everything watered in the river field. I took all my shining buckwheat and got it processed into 𝐲𝐵 flour, which got plopped into the shipping bin post-haste. In the barn, I got my animals brushed, then ran into the kitchen to make some cocktails. I gave Shelly some tea, Selena some bananas, Phoebe a rare ore, and the harvest goddess some royal jelly before sailing over to Toucan Island with Pascal, where I spent the evening catching some fish until it got dark. I very literally ran back home with the help of Theodore's pig and went to sleep. Picking up on day 101, I start my day off in the coop, making sure all my birds are fed before running out into the snow to water all of my buckwheat seedlings. My sanity can't take spending another 2 real-life hours at the watermill creating buckwheat flour, so I just got my stored buckwheat sold off, then ran over to Harmonica Town, where some very helpful commenters on my last video told me that connecting another Wii controller and rubbing the villagers helps expedite the friendship process. I spent most of the day running around town handing out gifts to all the dwellers of Harmonica Town and rubbing them for extra friendship points. I spent close to 40 real-life minutes every in-game day running around town gifting villagers, so going forward I won't be showing every time I gift a villager an item. This video would end up being super repetitive and very boring if I do say so myself, so just trust me on this, okay? Anyways, I found the mayor stuck in his fireplace, so I pulled him out and ended my day by watching the buckwheat money flow in. Renee was at my door bright and early to kick off day 102 with a delicious gift of soup. While I was milking my cows in the barn, I found that the rubbing strategy even works on animals before getting out into the fields to moisten my buckwheat stalks. I ran around town today and gave some gifts, hit up the Fuge Forest to chop some wood, and finish the day off with more gift giving. I completely forgot about the snowman gifts, so I rectified that the morning of day 103 before getting all my crops wet. I enjoyed a stamina boosting dip in the hot springs, did some more lumberjacking in the forest, before putting a cap on the day in the coop collecting some eggs. Another bachelorette is at my door bearing gifts the morning of day 104. This time it's Candace with a blue scarf. My buckwheat is coming in nicely as I get the stalks watered. Then it's over to the barn to check on all my large animals. I did a round of gift giving up at the mines, then ran over to the Coral Clinic to purchase a bunch of extra large body geysers for energy and gifts for Irene and Jin to end the day. All of my buckwheat was nice and ripe on day 105, so I spent the morning getting all of that picked off and put into the shipping bin, before running over to the Coral Clinic where I caught Jin giving Anissa an annual checkup where there might be some romantic sparks in the air. That afternoon, Finn and I happened upon an injured bird at the cemetery, so we scooped it up and ran right back to the clinic where Jin was able to treat it. Over at Marimba Farms, I purchased a final round of 450 buckwheat seeds, got all those sown in the field, and ended the day by checking on my friends in the coop before watching more buckwheat money hit my account. It seems like buckwheat grows pretty quickly and perfectly for live soil, as I'm already watering stalks on day 206. If I'm going to get the largest house possible, I'm going to need a lot of wood, so I'm back in Fuge Forest chopping some lumber before heading over to Harmonitown to rub up on some villagers and give out some gifts. Back on the farm, I get my large animals milked and fed, drop some produce into the shipping bin, and call it a day since I have no need to visit the circus this season. Anissa woke me up with a comically large present in hand on day 107. I got myself some blackberry pie to start the day, and got straight to work watering some buckwheat crops. Now that the circus holiday is done and Jin is actually working, he and I can release that healed bird back into the wild. The rest of the day was spent giving gifts and making sure that all of my animals are nice and happy. I will not be sleeping in on day 108 as Jin is at my front door at 6 a.m. Turns out he does have a bit of a crush on Anissa and wanted some advice on how he should move forward with her. Obviously, I'm going to encourage my boy to go after it, so I'll have to keep an eye out for further developments. I got some mail this morning that the Horn Ranch now sells goats, so that's fun. Be a shame if I wasn't able to buy one because I already have cows, a sheep, and a horse. Internal complaining aside, I made sure that my flowering buckwheats are watered, kept those aforementioned large animals nice and fed, and made my way to Fuge Forest to continue collecting wood. To finish the day off, I caught Kathy being ruthlessly teased by Owen over at Horn Ranch, where she was tricked into kissing him only for Owen to make fun of her. Kind of a dick move, if you ask me. Speaking of Owen, my man needs to watch his back since his girl's at my front door on day 109 giving me some carrots. A lovely snowy day is spent watering all my buckwheat plants, collecting some wood and mushrooms in Fuge Forest, doing some gift giving around town, and taking care of my animals. The final buckwheat crop is ready for harvest to start day 110. So I spent the morning getting all of these little brown money makers picked before heading over to Marimba Farm to purchase a bunch of fertilizer for the spring crop. I gave some love to all of my ducks and chickens in the coop, then spent the afternoon in the mines searching for white wonderfuls to end the day. Another day brings another guest to my front door on day 111. The mayor is here to tell me all about the fun activities planned for tomorrow evening's New Year's celebration, where I can bring someone as a date. So I got all my farm animals fed and taken care of, and then went down to the swamp to ask the witch princess to be my date, but she doesn't seem too interested in the celebration. A major part of the New Year's event is the gem contest, so I went over to the accessory shop to refine the white wonderfuls I was hoarding, and got the all-important diamond, before ending the day by throwing some stuff in the shipping bin and earning some money. The only noteworthy thing to happen on day 112, and the final day of year 1, was the New Year's festival. There are plenty of fun competitions, but what I'm really here for are all the limited edition cooking supplies from Barbara's stall, and all the cool clothes at Shelly's that I spent over 160,000 G on. I submitted my newly refined diamond in the mining contest, which got me first place. Then it was time for the foraging contest, in which I also picked up the blue ribbon. Those 2 wins netted me 1,000 material stone and 500 wood that will be very helpful as I upgrade my house. The final competition was the fashion contest, which I unfortunately came up short and only got second place to Julius in. My New Year's wish was to bring joy to Harmonica Town, which got me a fair increase in friendship with all the dwellers that live in the city proper. And so I put a cap on the year by watching the fireworks with the other villagers before hitting the hay, picking up the ultimate farmer status once again, and checking out my end-of-year sales report, where I was just under the 2 million G mark in my first year earnings. Day 113 and the first day of spring begins with the local inn waitress Maya at my front door gifting me a good walnut. Using that as fuel, I started my day in earnest by slicing the weeds growing in my farmland, getting all these squares fertilized, and moistening up the soil before running over to Marimba Farms to purchase a whole bunch of strawberry and pink cat flower seeds. I got all of those sown in the field and then ran into the wizard and witch engaging in a game of tug-of-war over a huge mushroom. It's a bad day for our wizard friend because I don't want to be in big trouble with the witch, so I ultimately decided to give her the mushroom I found and got myself a black pearl in exchange. Dealing with that fight was exhausting, so I decided to milk my cows and call it a day. A rainy day 114 begins by hitting up the chicken coop and making sure my feathered friends are well fed. I went back to the witch's abode that afternoon where she asked me for some raspberry juice that I totally didn't have on my person. So I went back home to make some for her, only to find that she didn't care about it when I returned, so I guess it wasn't a super urgent craving. Owen woke me up on day 115 as the love bug has hit another man in the valley. I guess he feels bad about teasing Kathy and has come to me for some love advice, which of course will be encouraging. I make sure to water my field of strawberries, restock the chicken feed for the birds, and milk all of my cows before spending the remainder of another day running around town, giving out gifts and rubbing people. One of my gifts was returned in kind on day 116 as Phoebe woke me up with a lovely present of 3 bricks of gold. My rubbings weren't returned though, so that's a little upsetting. I made sure to get all of my strawberry seeds nice and moist before spending most of the morning at the river plot, collecting all of the pink cat flowers that have just bloomed, along with a couple units of royal jelly. I went into Fuge Forest for a second to grab some wood, then finished the day by hanging out with the birds in the coop. Day 117 is super short for all of you at home. I made sure that all my animals were fed, stopped by Marimba Farms to pick up some more strawberry seeds, and got those sown in the river plot to replace the freshly cultivated flowers. The Witch Princess woke me up on day 118 with a present, a delicious slice of homemade pumpkin pie. Another rainy day means another relatively quick one since I don't have to water any crops. The first thing I did today was hit up Fuge Forest to collect some special mushrooms to give to the Witch Princess in exchange for the pumpkin pie she gave me this morning. The only other notable thing I did this day was collect a bunch of eggs from the coop. We got back-to-back baddies giving us presents on day 119 as Selena showed up at my front door to give me a black pearl. My field of strawberries has finally borne fruit on this 7th day of spring, so I spent the entirety of my morning collecting all of these red little miracles before watering the river plot. I got some milk from my larger animals in the barn, dropped off all my fruits and produce in the shipping bin, then ran over to Sonata Tailoring where I found a cutscene with Phoebe and Candace. Phoebe was trying to solicit buyers for her yarn maker, but Candace rebuffed that attempt by saying she preferred to do it by hand. At the brass bar, I purchased a bunch of meals that are loved gifts for the villagers around town, then went down to the cemetery where Finn and I ran into a ghost. Turns out this ghost is the soul of a man named Tom who died before his wife Anna, and it's up to me and Finn to figure out what happened to her. All that sounds like a quest for tomorrow, so I hit the sack and enjoyed some strawberry profits hit my bank account. Luna makes it 3 days in a row with a bachelorette at my front door on day 120. This time around, I got myself some good flax yarn. To start the day off, I picked up some straggler strawberries and watered the crops in the river plot before running over to Horn Ranch, where I explained my encounter with the ghost to Renee and Hannah. Turns out that Anna was Hannah's grandmother, and she was nice enough to hand over Anna's favorite music box. Back on the farm, I collected all of my chicken and duck eggs in the coop, then saw another cutscene with Renee as she is tending to Kathy's horse, before enjoying some well-deserved hot spring relaxation time. To finish the day off, Finn and I returned to the cemetery and showed Ghost Tom Anna's old music box, and informed him of Anna's demise. I guess that was enough to detether his soul from this world as Tom ascended to the heavens of the afterlife. I ran into Luna and Gil getting into an argument at the town hall to start off day 121. Luna was just trying to hand over the registration for the tailor business, but Gil had to infantilize her by mentioning how impressive it is that she's doing it alone. Speaking of Gil getting into some hot water, he also had a dispute with Luke and Bo, who were commissioned to repair an old table, as the two butted heads on how extreme the end product should be. Over at the clinic, I ran into Irene doing some not-so-successful babysitting of Taylor and Chloe, as the two children were having way too much fun making life difficult for our local pharmacist. As a bit of a prank, Taylor and Chloe borrow some ore and medicine from Irene and Ramsey, to which the adults in this scenario made the kids feel guilty about wanting to play with them. Real adult move there, guys. Eventually, Jen arrived on the scene, got everyone to apologize, and smooth things over for the gang to end the day. Kathy made her second appearance at my doorstep the morning of day 122. This time around, she gifted me some cheese fondue, which will go great with these strawberries I'm watering. In my last video, I asked all of you guys and gals to vote on who I should marry in this series. And I'm happy to announce that with 40% of the vote in a landslide victory, the Witch Princess is our winner. I only mention this now because she asked me on a picnic date this afternoon, and I've gone out of my way to not see these cutscenes for any other bachelorettes, because I'm a man of great honor and respect. While I wait for the agreed upon time to arrive for the picnic, I spent the day in the mines farming hammer skill XP, where I ran into another cutscene, this time between Phoebe and Calvin, where our blue-haired bachelorette assures the cowboy archaeologist that she knows her way around the caves better than he ever could, and not to worry about her, to which Calvin seems a bit smitten. Speaking of Calvin, while continuing my spelunking, I ran into another cutscene with him, Owen, and Luke, as he attempts to get these two mischief makers to not destroy these walls that have some archaeological significance, and he was successful in convincing them to find another not-so-historically important wall to smash. Back on the farm, I made sure to give my lovings to my birds and collect their eggs before running over to Flute Fields to have my picnic date with the Witch Princess. Of course, we have a great time, and I admit I feel honored to have spent this time with her, and I ended the day by waving goodbye after hearing she's open to a second rendezvous. I woke up on a rainy day 123 to find Mira in front of my house just hanging out, looking at the sky. This cutscene essentially serves as a trigger for getting the blue feather, so that's nice to have at some point. I'm not gonna get it today, I mean, I got stuff to do. That stuff I need to do is another massive round of strawberries ready for harvest, so I spent the morning collecting all of those before running into another cutscene with Jin and Anissa at the clinic. This is the 7-heart cutscene for Jin, where he essentially proposes to Anissa, so love is definitely in the air at Harmonica Town. To finish the day off, I collected some milk from the cows, dropped off all my produce in the shipping bin, and watched the money roll in. Calvin woke me up early on day 124 to confess his crush on Phoebe to me, so I encouraged my favorite cowboy to go after his cowgirl, before checking my mailbox to see that Jin and Anissa sent me a save the date for their wedding on the 26th of spring, day 138. This morning, I collected a couple of straggler strawberries and watered the fields before running over to the brass bar where Owen is deep in his cups asking Kathy to marry him. I guess she didn't care that my man was a tad bit inebriated and said yes, so I end the day with another wedding on the horizon. Speaking of weddings, I think Selena is still trying to get me to be a main character in hers on day 125, but my heart belongs to the Witch Princess, no matter how amazing this southern omelet might taste. Speaking of my eventual wife, she sent me a letter confessing that she likes me but doesn't like me, before I saw the save the date for Owen and Kathy for the first day of summer, day 141. I harvested a handful of strawberries, made sure the ripening berries were nice and moist, then went over to the swamp where the Witch Princess invited me to join her at the flower festival tomorrow night. While running around town giving out gifts, I saw a cutscene where Selena was just dancing on the beach when Luke ran up to her, applauded, and complimented her on her fantastic dancing skills, then promptly ran off like a little kid who's shy around the girl he likes. Speaking of guys lacking girls, I ended the day by snooping on Toby and Renee as they make plans for a little destination date as they were fishing outside the brass bar. It seems like we got a couple more villagers hearing some wedding bells. All these women keep trying to tempt me away from my destiny, as Phoebe woke me up with a gift of a diamond on day 126. I refuse to let these women distract me from my true goal, growing lots of strawberries and befriending cute silkworms for profit. This evening is the flower festival, so I was able to meet up with the Witch Princess at the church grounds to spend some quality time together. And that's how I ended the day, just hanging out with the Witch Princess and making plans to come here next year. Another lovesick young man knocked on my door to start day 127. This time it's Gil who needs some encouragement for his blossoming relationship with Luna. That morning I picked some more strawberries, watered the river plot, then ran down to the Ocarina Inn, where I found Maya scarfing down a cake that Chase made. I'll admit it was a bad joke for Chase to say that it was riddled with rat poison, given Maya's reaction. I put a cap on this day by running down to Horn Ranch to re-up on some feed and fodder, then checking on all my birds in the coop. It seems like the romance between Luke and Selena is heating up as the bandana-wearing bad boy is at my door to start day 128, looking for advice. Then it's out to the fields to get my day started in earnest. I collected the strawberries, moistened the soil with my watering can, and then ran over to the swamp, where the witch princess wants to rendezvous at the lighthouse later today for a very important meeting. While giving out gifts, I ran into Julius at Sonata Tailoring, looking to lay down some game with Candace. But as soon as she speaks up, he interprets her words as a slight to his nimble stature and totally scares her off. You are not making a good name for your fellow short kings, Julius. As I move on from one stumbling romance to an explosive one, I got a cutscene with Calvin and Phoebe. As they're working on a Birkin machine, Phoebe drops the hardest line in the entire game. No, she's not interested in marriage, Calvin. She's interested in you, dog. I need to start living my life like Phoebe. I took all that bravado and met up with the witch princess at the lighthouse, where she confesses that she likes me and accuses me of being not human, considering only magic could make her feel this way. Obviously, I told her I liked her as well, and with a kiss on the cheek, the witch princess and I are officially in an exclusive relationship. Speaking of exclusive relationships, Toby is itching to tell Renee how he really feels, so I gave him the encouragement he needed the morning of day 129. I got a couple of messages in the mail this morning, the first of which from the mayor telling me how I go about proposing in Harmonica Town, and the second is the save the date for Calvin and Phoebe. They're holding their wedding one day after Owen and Kathy, and that seems kind of rude if you ask me, but I'm not a wedding planner. I don't know the logistics of Harmonica Town. What I am, though, is a farmer, so I watered my strawberries and got the final bit of XP needed to get the 4th level of the watering can skill. After that humongous achievement, I milked all my cows in the barn before running down to the brass bar to give out some gifts where I saw another cutscene. Luna showed up to the bar to deliver some fabric when Selena introduced herself, and the two of them got into a fairly intense passive-aggressive verbal battle. Luna was throwing around some very choice words like trashy, to which Selena deflected her insults as simple jealousy. But Luna crossed the line when she insulted Selena's native dancing dress, and then everyone flipped their lid. Thankfully, Kathy was on hand to calm everyone down, and eventually got the two to settle their differences, and that's just an exciting way to end the day. Just like me, Julius seemed too excited to sleep since he woke me up on day 130 to tell me about his crush on Candace. Just as long as you don't freak her out again, Julius, I think you should be fine. In the crop field, I collected some ripe strawberries, got the soon-to-be harvestable berries nice and wet, then spent the remainder of this uneventful day keeping my chickens healthy and thriving. The final bachelor in Harmonica Town finally tracked me down the morning of day 131 to tell me about his love affair with the local waitress at the inn and make sure that I don't like her. Don't worry, Chase, I'm already spoken for, dude. You go get that girl. A healthy crop of strawberries is ready for harvest, so I get those collected in super speedy time before grabbing a couple of really nice looking eggs and ending a really short day by getting all that produce placed in the shipping bin. Hey Maya, your boyfriend was just at my house yesterday. It's almost like you guys don't communicate all that well just yet. It's crazy. Sorry about that, I got slightly distracted. Day 132 begins by collecting some straggler strawberries, watering all the crops that are desperate for moisture, then milking some cows in the barn, before spending another entire day running around town giving out gifts to villagers. Luna came bearing gifts the morning of day 133, a pair of green earmuffs that I'm totally going to wear at some point. As is customary, I collected the ripe strawberries in my fields and watered all the growing crops before running into the mayor's house where I found Luna, the girl who just gave me a gift, getting proposed to by Gil. Luckily for me, she accepts his proposal, and that's an awkward conversation I no longer have to have. Day 133 comes to an end in the barn as I milk my cows for that sweet, sweet white liquid. In what seems like the first day in forever, I can finally sleep in as I don't have someone banging on my door to wake me up on day 134. When I wake up, I do have some mail from Gil and Luna though, as they are planning to hold their wedding on the 9th day of summer. I get that save the date thrown up on the refrigerator and make my way to the fields to do my daily farm chores, before running up to the top of the mountain with Finn as we spot the infamous bluebird. As we make our approach, the bird hastily flies away, but leaves a solitary feather in its ascent that I will be able to use to propose to the girl of my dreams. So I make my way over to the swamp, but the witch princess is playing it cool today, so I guess I'll have to propose some other day. And that other day is today, day 135. I get a whole bunch of strawberries collected as fast as humanly possible, make sure they get all nice and moist to continue bearing fruit, then beeline it to the witch's hut, where this time, she finally accepts the gravity of me giving her a blue feather and asks to go somewhere private. I guess second time's the charm. The witch princess arrives at the base of the church grounds where I officially ask her to marry me, which she accepts. And a little side note for all you hopeless romantics out there, if you propose to your partner and she says no the first time and you still have the gumption to propose a second time, and she accepts but says, okay, fine, like it's a chore or something, maybe not marry that person. I don't know, just me. Anyways, this is a video game, so everything's fine. We seal our engagement with a little kiss and then plan our wedding ceremony for the 24th of spring, which, funny thing, is tomorrow. But do you know who isn't getting married tomorrow? Chase and Maya. I mean, they are getting married, as you can tell by this cute little cutscene of both of them getting each other blue feathers, but they're gonna have to wait a little while for their nuptials, because day 136 is entirely reserved for my wedding to the witch princess. So, fast forward to the dark of night. Perry gave me the keys to the church and I waited at the front of the altar for my bride to arrive. With my hand in hers and with the immortal words of Beyonce, I put a ring on it, and in the presence of absolutely no witnesses, the witch princess and I were wed as we sealed our union with another kiss at the stroke of midnight. And now that we are finally tied together for life, we ended the day with the witch princess confiding in me her true name, Vivi. Now that I'm a married man, Vivi wakes me up every morning with a delicious packed lunch, the perfect way to start day 137. Another really interesting mechanic that's present in Animal Parade is that your spouse can help you work on the farm. I even had Vivi go out and collect some mushrooms and herbs for me today. I got some mail from Chase and Maya as they finally set a date for their wedding, the 11th of summer. Then it was out to the crop fields to water some growing strawberries and harvest a large bunch of ripe berries in the large plot near the road. I made sure to check on the state of all my feathered friends in the coop, then went up to the carpenter's workshop to purchase the level 3 upgrade to my house. Almost as if by magic, my house is quickly renovated to include a much larger kitchen and a second room that is completely empty. To finish the day off, I made my way down to the brass bar where Selena's dancing has gotten Luke feeling some type of way. Owen has no clue what Luke means, but luckily, Luke has a solution. Just propose marriage to the dancer at your local watering hole and hope she says yes. Fortunately for our bandana-clad brother, Selena accepts and the two go out on the town looking for a ring. It would appear that they found the perfect ring as I have their save the date in my mailbox on day 138. Those two goofballs will be wed on the 13th day of summer, 2 days after Chase and Maya. With the spring season coming to a close, I only have so many strawberries left to collect and sell away. So I get those harvested and make sure my cows are milked with the help of my wife, and then I shuttle down to the church grounds to attend Jin and Anissa's wedding. Obviously, these two make a very handsome couple as the town attends the ceremony and congratulates the happy new family to end the day. Unfortunately for me, I got lots of work to do in the morning of day 139, so I wasn't able to partake in the reception festivities last night. But I was able to get my plants watered and chop down a bunch of wood in the huge forest. I peeked in on Julius to give him a gift, only to find Candace at his house. The two were sharing a lovely chat where Julius just popped the question out of nowhere, to which Candace said yes, so it looks like I'll be attending yet another wedding this summer. And speaking of weddings, I saw another engagement at Horn Ranch, as Toby and Renee decided to tie the knot. Renee half-mindedly accepted Toby's kind of joke proposal while they were just hanging out with the barn animals in the field. Both of those proposals mean that my mailbox is filled up with save the dates to start day 140. Toby and Renee decided to wait until the 8th of fall to get married, and Julius and Candace's wedding will be on the 20th of summer. Love is most definitely on everyone's mind. Well, everyone except me, because I always got money on mine, as I get these strawberries collected. Unfortunately for all of these almost ripe berries, the spring season is ending, so I put them out of their misery before running over to the Horn Ranch to participate in the annual Animal Festival. I purchased all of Hannah's recipes at her stall, then entered Coco the cow into the judging contest, where she and I were able to get our revenge from defeat last year and pick up the blue ribbon. After that success, I followed it up in the animal race with Charles. I totally didn't reset this race until I won, by the way. I only used the power of friendship between me and my steed to cross the line in first place and collect yet another blue ribbon and 25 shiny carrots. With those two massive wins under my belt, Coco and Charles have these cool little crowns on their heads, which is a really neat touch that I think every Story of Seasons game and Harvest Moon game should have had and should have in the future. I finished off this spring season in Fuge Forest, chopping down some trees, where I finally got the 600 pieces of wood I needed to purchase the 4th house upgrade, which will have to come later as it's bedtime. I watched the final bit of strawberry money come into my account and got yet another Ultimate Farmer title. To kick off the first day of summer in day 141, I hit up my wardrobe to throw on some fresh threads that totally don't fit a summer vibe. Over at the coop, I started my farm chores by feeding my birds, and then went over to the fields to scythe down some weeds and till out some farm space. Over at Marimba Farms, I made a couple of purchases, including a fair amount of fertilizer and a whole bunch of summer seeds, before running up to the carpenter to buy the 4th and final house upgrade. Today is Kathy and Owen's wedding day, so I went down to the church grounds to watch those two recite their vows and become their own little family, before running back to the farm to sow all that fertilizer and seeds into the field. To finish the day off, I inspected my newly upgraded home that now has a 2nd floor. The morning of day 142, I asked Vivi to assist me with the daily crop watering, then went over to the mailbox where the mayor sent me some literature on everything I need to have a child. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know what I need to do to have a child, but I appreciate the encouragement. I made sure to water all the crops on my half of the farm, then spent some time hanging out with Vivi as she watered her half. Phoebe and Calvin's wedding ceremony is today, so I made a trip to the church grounds on back-to-back days to watch these two lovebirds commit themselves to each other, before heading back to the barn to feed all my large animals. Up at the garment mines, I purchased all of the remaining furniture and storage items from the carpenter's store, then ran down to the town hall to purchase my first ever vacation property, the 200,000 G summer house on Toucan Island. I immediately took the Toucan Express over to the island and finished the day by entering my new house, which was slightly disappointing considering the price I paid for this little bungalow. The morning of day 143, I asked Vivi to help me with the farm work by collecting eggs in the coop, then got into the fields to water all my growing honeydew fruits. While Vivi was grabbing those eggs, I made sure to give her a gift for all her hard work, before making sure all the animals had food and love to end the day. I was greeted by a typhoon on day 144, so a fair amount of my crops were completely destroyed in the ensuing storm. Adding insult to injury, it's a Wednesday, so I can't run over to Marimba Farms to replace the crop even if I wanted to, so I spent the day retilling the soil from the destroyed plants, milking all my cows and sheep, and spending time in Fuge Forest working on upgrading my axe skill. A stormy day 145 begins in the chicken coop feeding all my bird friends before running down to Marimba Farms, where I got a cutscene revealing that Anissa is deathly afraid of thunder, so hopefully my man Jin is there to comfort her tonight. While I was at Marimba, I picked up a couple of replacement seeds that I'll plant after the current crop is ripe, before spending another day in the forest getting axe and hammer XP and collecting some Fuge mushrooms for Vivi. All the crops that survived the typhoon are ready for harvest on day 146, so I spent the morning getting all of those picked off their stalks, before going back inside to try my hand at making ice cream for the first time. Turns out, you need a little bit of experience as I ended up with some dubious food. I spent the rest of the day doing farm chores, clearing off some weeds, sowing some more seeds, and collecting some eggs in the coop. As I went to bed, I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of money I got with a typhoon-stricken crop. The Firefly Festival headlines day 147, so I spent the morning fertilizing some bare spots in the field, watering all the growing crops, and making sure all of my animals are milked before heading down to the river basin that evening. Vivi and I enjoyed participating in the festival activities and watching all of the beautiful fireflies before ending the evening with a kiss. Day 148 is a stormy Sunday, so I asked Vivi to assist with brushing the animals, and we spent some lovely husband-wife time in this stinky barn. To once again thank my wife for her efforts towards bettering the lives of our animals, I foraged and gifted a Fuge mushroom for her to enjoy. The sun came back out on day 149, so I'm up early watering crops before running down to Marimba Farms to purchase all of the available recipes along with some sugarcane. Over at the watermill, I got that sugarcane turned into some refined sugar before running up to the church grounds for the wedding between Luna and Gil. Honestly, they look a little young to get married, but I assume they're both adults making rational decisions. To finish the day off, I made sure to help out Vivi with her watering chores. I started day 150 exactly how I ended day 149. I'm in the crop fields watering some fruit. Since tomorrow is a Wednesday and I know Marimba will be closed, I preemptively restocked on honeydew seeds before finishing a short day by milking the cows. Another round of honeydew are ready for harvest on day 151, so I spent the majority of the morning harvesting all these delicious fruits before running back inside to try my hand at making ice cream again. So the trick is to add sugar, milk, and eggs with the fruit, and you get delicious ice cream. Today is another wedding day, so I quickly collected all the eggs in the coop, then ran up to the church to enjoy the wedding of Maya and Chase, who looks incredibly dapper in his three-piece tuxedo, might I add. To finish the day off, I sowed all those seeds I bought yesterday and got them nice and wet so they grow overnight. Day 152 is nice and rainy, so 𝐕𝐕 doesn't have to spend all day watering crops with me. I got some mail this morning from Jin and Anissa announcing that they have just welcomed their first child. So I quickly did all my farm chores with some assistance from 𝐕𝐕 and ran over to the coral clinic to welcome Jin and Anissa's new bundle of joy, a healthy boy they named Van, who apparently bears a striking resemblance to his father. To celebrate this massive vacation and end the day, I went and spent 200,000 G on the beach and mountain vacation houses. Another wedding headlines day 153, so I'm up early watering crops before running over to Marimba to purchase some more fertilizer to sow into my fields and make sure my fruit grows as fast as possible. I got all of my animals fed and loved. Then it's over to the church grounds to celebrate the union of Selena and Luke, who is still rocking the bandana on one of the most important and formal days of his life. Seems like Selena doesn't mind though, so who am I to judge? The morning of day 154, I received some very thinly veiled threats from my wife should I ever decide to betray or leave her. Potential domestic abuse aside, this day is fairly short, as the only real highlights are completing my farm chores, like watering crops and collecting eggs. I've got some mail on day 155 from Owen and Kathy, who are writing to celebrate the birth of their child. I assisted 𝐕𝐕 on her daily watering chores, sucked out some delicious milk from the cows, and did some Axe XP farming in Fuge Forest before running over to the blacksmiths to introduce myself to Roy, the firstborn son of Kathy and Owen. Another round of honeydews are ready for plucking on day 156, so I spent the morning gathering up all of those while 𝐕𝐕 waters some bare soil. Over at Marimba Farms, I purchased some replacement seeds and even more fertilizer before running up to the Garmin district, where yet another couple has welcomed a new family member. Phoebe and Calvin are celebrating the healthy delivery of their own boy, Heath. I hope Heath likes honeydew, because their parents are going to be getting a lot of it as gifts as I sow and water all these fruits. I ended the day in the coop collecting more eggs to ship away for that sweet, sweet money, of which I made over 82,000 G today. Thanks to that typhoon earlier in the season, all of my crops are growing at different speeds, so I spent the morning of day 157 harvesting another section of delicious honeydew. I got the field resown and made sure all my crops were properly watered before feeding all my feathered friends in the coop and dropping off all the produce in the shipping bin. Today is the summer festival, but honestly I didn't really feel like participating in any of the events, so I just called it an early day and enjoyed some more funds entering my bank account. I once again asked 𝐕𝐕 to help me water some crops on day 158, and I even got a letter from the blue harvest sprite, Ben. But before I help him out with whatever he needs, I've got plants to water and sheep to milk. I eventually made my way to the Bluebell where Ben appeared and asked me where he should go to learn more about the world. For me, the only answer was Toucan Island. So Ben, Finn, and I boarded the first ship out and enjoyed the warmth of the tropical destination. Ben was so thankful for this experience that he gave me a Blue Wonderful as a reward. To finish the day off, I decided to spend another 100,000 G on the final vacation house, the River House. I now have every single available property in Harvest Moon Animal Parade. The morning of day 159, I received another letter from a harvest sprite, this time the purple sprite, Edge. So I quickly completed my daily farm chores of watering crops and collecting bird eggs, and hightailed it down to the church to meet up with my purple bell buddy. Edge wants to give a thank you gift to the harvest goddess and asked me what he should get her, and I know for a fact that she likes honey. So the three of us went up to the sprite spring and provided the goddess with some divine bee vomit. To thank me for my advice, Edge also gave me a gift, a pristine garnet gem. Harmonica Town is hosting another wedding on day 160, but before we go to the church, I've got some farm chores to do and a wife to keep happy. You know what they say, happy wife, happy afterlife. Speaking of afterlives, our good friends Candace and Julius pledged this life and their necks to each other in today's beautiful wedding ceremony. Fantastic event to end the day. Darren, the green harvest sprite, sent me some mail to kick off day 161, but unfortunately for him, I've got a whole bunch of honeydew that needs collecting, so our green bell boy will have to be patient. I went down to Marimba Farms to purchase some more seeds, got my crop of honeydews and milk sold away, then got all those seeds sown in their respective plots of soil before finishing my farm chores in the barn, collecting even more milk. I eventually made my way to the Green Bell at Horn Ranch, where Darren, the resident sloth of the Harvest Sprites, is looking for a comfy napping spot. The best spot that comes to mind right now is the hot springs. So the three of us went to the top of the mountain and enjoyed the perfect temperature water, which Darren enjoyed enough to hook me up with some spinach to end the day, as I made another handsome sum from honeydew. Day 162 is a circus day, so apparently Vivi can't do any chores. Since that's the case, I convinced her to follow me around while I do my chores so that she can see how the bacon is made. I know it's a holiday and I can't expect my wife to help me out, but she really could have just picked a couple of honeydews. I mean, she's right there anyways. Eventually, she decided that she'd seen enough and left me to sow my seeds and get them nice and wet on my lonesome. Once again, I have no desire to go to the circus this season, so I just finished the day off in the coop feeding my birds and watched some more honeydew cash come in. I got a letter from another sprite on day 163. This time, it's the red sprite Alan. I very quickly did my morning farm chores of watering crops and tending the animals, then went down to the Garmin mines to see what my friend needs. Turns out Alan has a dream of being an ultra cool superhero and needs my advice on what he should do to reach this goal. I suggested we have a meeting of the minds of all the harvest sprites, so we all came together at the Red Bell and gave Alan all the advice he could need and more. As thanks for my role in this brainstorming sesh, Alan gave me a silver ore to end the day. I'm back in the mailbox to start day 164 as yet another couple has welcomed new life into the world. Farm chores still need to be done regardless, so I helped Vivi out with her watering chores and took care of all my birds in the coop before running down to the mayor's house to see that Gil and Luna have given birth to a baby girl. What I don't appreciate is how they totally stole my wife's full name though. You better watch yourself, Vivian, or my wife will put a curse on you. It would seem Gil, Luna, Chase, and Maya plan their pregnancies around each other since our favorite chef and waitress have also just given birth on day 165. So I made sure to get all my farm chores done expeditiously so I could beeline it to Chase's house in Flute Fields and introduce myself to their little bundle of joy, another baby girl named Dakota. The final harvest sprite to send me a letter was Colin on day 166. But before I see what he has in store for me, I've got another penultimate field full of ripe honeydew that needs to be harvested. I got my final field of honeydew nice and moisturized, grabbed a bunch of produce from my chickens and got those thrown in the shipping bin along with those green fruits, then ran over to the yellow bell. Colin materialized from the brass instrument and explained that he's in love with a cute girl. Marvelous would never make a harvest sprite marry a human woman, right? To confirm this, Finn and I followed him up to the Garmin Mine District, where it was revealed that Colin is head over heels for Chloe. So we did some reconnaissance to see if Chloe would be interested in talking to a harvest sprite, and just the fact that she accepted the idea was good enough for Colin to reward me with a yellow wonderful for my role of wingman. I've got one final harvest of honeydew on day 167, so I enlisted the assistance of my wife Vivi to help me get all of these delicious fruits picked up and stowed away. Other than that large harvest, nothing much was going on today, so I put a cap in it by taking care of my animals. The final day of summer, day 168, begins in the mailbox as I got a letter from Jin and Anissa. Today is their son Van's child day. This means that Van is now fully grown, added to the list of villagers I can befriend, and can now accept gifts. Lucky for me, one of Van's favorite gifts is herbal tea, so getting 10 hearts with him shouldn't be too difficult. I spent the remainder of this final day of summer in the barn, collecting milk from my cows, before watching the season tick over and receiving yet another Ultimate Farmer title and fertilizer gift. A new season means a new outfit, and I'm looking perfect on day 169 in this little cat costume. Out in the fields, I utilized my scythe to start removing the weeds from the soil before getting them pre-watered. I made my way over to Fuge Forest to grab a mushroom before making my way to Marimba Farms to purchase my 450 Blue Mist flower seeds. Before I got all those seeds sown, I gave Vivi the Fuge mushroom I found earlier, which got her up to 20 hearts of affection. Maxing out the friendship meter with my spouts awarded me my first power berry in a long time to increase my stamina. With that stamina boost, I finished the day off by milking my cows and getting all those Blue Mist flower seeds thrown down. I've got another Child's Day to attend to on day 170, so I asked Vivi for some help in watering the crops this morning and we tackled that as a family. Over at the coop, I made sure the birds were fed, then utilized some of their eggs along with milk in the pot to make some egg soup. After cooking up a bunch of those, I made my way over to Simon's photo hut to formally introduce myself to Roy on his Child's Day. One of Roy's favorite gifts is, wouldn't you guess it, that egg soup that I just made. Calvin and Phoebe sent me some mail on day 171 to invite me to another Child's Day photo op. So I accidentally got my wife pissed off at me by getting her slightly wet, collected a bunch of eggs from all my chickens in the coop, and then went to Simon's for the second day in a row, where Calvin and Phoebe's son Heath has fully grown up. All those shining chicken eggs I've been hoarding are now worth their weight in gold since Heath loves these so much. On day 172, we go from a child growing up to a child being born, as Selena and Luke sent me some mail this morning requesting my attendance to welcome their new child to the world. I watered my flowers and decided that I already have enough money, so I'm going to keep them mature the entire season and farm royal jelly and honey from them, considering a lot of people really love these items as gifts. Speaking of gifts, I unfortunately came empty-handed to Luke and Selena's place to welcome their daughter Lucy to the world. But I did get some shining milk from one of my cows today, so maybe Lucy can get that for her child's day. You don't have to do this, but I watered my flowers the morning of day 173 to get the watering can tool XP. The flowers will continue to create royal jelly and the rare bit of honey even without moisture, but like I said, I need the tool XP, I need it. I spent the remainder of the day running around town befriending the children and collecting eggs from the chicken coop. To start day 174, I'm in the field collecting some watering can tool XP and some shining honey from one of those blue mist flowers. After making sure all my large animals are properly fed, I made my way to Fuge Forest to collect some axe tool XP, before ending the day in the depths of the forest where the wild animals noticed me intercept their powwow. Out of respect and slight fear, I gave the wild animals some honey that I found this morning and got myself a friendship boost. I had to stay up super late to get that cutscene, so I started off day 175 by consuming the lunchbox that Vivi made me this morning. I got a letter from Julius and Candace in the mailbox inviting me to visit them and their new baby, so I got all of my flowers watered and collected all the royal jelly I could before running over to Julius's house in Flute Fields and introducing myself to their little girl, Angie. The only thing I had left to do today was milking the cows and the sheep, so I did that and called it a day. Day 176 is the final wedding day for the rival bachelors and bachelorettes. So I'm up and at 'em early collecting royal jelly and grabbing all my bird eggs. It's been well over an entire season since it was announced, but Renee and Toby end the day by finally tying the knot up at the church grounds. Some couples have been married, had a kid, and have had that kid grow up in the time it took these two to get hitched. But who am I to judge? Toby and Renee seem like they like to take their time. Speaking of having kids, Vivi is bedridden on day 177, complaining of deathly stomach pains, so I rushed her over to the clinic to be examined. Turns out our girl is in labor, and your boy is sent to the lobby to sweat it out as Irene performs her midwife duties. After what I can only assume was hours of nervous waiting, Vivi and I officially welcomed our first child into the world, a baby girl I decided to name Cece. As Vivi and I postulate about what our daughter will be like as she grows up, I suggest that she'll be gentle, and Vivi agrees. Now that I'm a father, I carefully inspected the childcare basic journal I received from Hamilton before heading to bed after a long and stressful day. With the overwhelming weight of fatherhood now on my shoulders, I kicked off day 178 with a newfound purpose. I collected all the honey and royal jelly along with some milk from the cows before running up to the Garmin Mine District to purchase not only all the new storage items, but I also picked up the all-important rattle at the general store. While I was just throwing money around, I also grabbed every last version of the cooking utensils and every single book available. I ran back down to the house to show Cece the rattle I just bought, which suspiciously sounds like the bell I used to call the cattle. I wonder what messages this game is trying to send me about child rearing and animal handling. Starting from day 179, most days in the future will start like this one, just giving my daughter Cece as much love as possible. Another baby in Harmonica Town has finally grown up, with Gil and Luna sending me a letter. So, with a whole bunch of rain in the air, I collected all the possible jelly from the flowers and fed all of my feathered friends before running down to Simon's photo hut. Gil and Luna's daughter Vivian has finally reached the age where she can be befriended and given gifts. But the marimba farm is closed today, so I'll have to do that tomorrow. In the meantime, another baby has matured on day 180. This time it's Chase and Maya's daughter Dakota. So once again, I did all my farm chores, then ran down to Flute Fields to purchase some gifts for Vivian and Dakota. I formally introduced myself to Chase and Maya's daughter at the photo hut, then ran over to the mayor's house to start working on my friendship levels with Vivian, who loves roses. To end the day, I ran back to Flute Fields one last time to give a present to Dakota for Child's Day, some shining honey, which is one of her favorite gifts. There isn't much to do on day 181 since I didn't have any honey or jelly from the flowers this morning, so I spent the day taking care of all my animals and running around town giving gifts to the children, hoping that we can become friends super quickly. Day 182 is headlined by the Moon Festival, so I quickly did all my milk and honey collecting in the morning before fast-forwarding to the evening, where Vivi and I enjoyed the festival by eating some delicious sweets in the moonlight before wrapping up a romantic evening with a kiss. Days 183 through 185 are pretty much identical. I collected all the possible royal jelly and honey from the matured flowers, grabbed the produce from all my animals and made sure they were fed, and then finished the days by strolling around Harmonica Town and its various districts giving sweets to the children. I would have included day 186 into that montage, but Luke and Selena's daughter Lucy had her child day today. So I ran over to Simon's after doing all my chores and introduced myself. You can tell from a mile away that Lucy is Selena and Luke's daughter just by the headband alone. And just like Heath, Lucy has a penchant for shining chicken eggs, so it's only a matter of time before I befriend her. Then it's back to monotony for the next 4 days. All I really did for days 187 through 190 were making sure Cece was happy, checking up on my animals, making sure they're well fed and warm, collecting honey and royal jelly from the blue mist flowers, and working on befriending all the town rugrats. Day 190 was a circus day, but until Cece's grown up, there really isn't a point in going. But speaking of Cece, on day 191, our little girl took a huge development step and started crawling. As Vivi and I chatted about this momentous achievement, we started making bets on when Cece would start talking, but I kind of feel weird calling Cece an it, if I'm being honest. Anyways, as my child slowly starts growing up, another child has matured in Harmonica Town, so I got into the fields and started collecting some royal jelly, picked up some eggs in the coop to serve as gifts, then got into the kitchen where I mixed up some blueberries to make juice. Over at Simon's, I crashed Julius and Candace's family photo to see that their daughter Angie is all grown up and ready to become friends with me. So I took that blueberry juice I made earlier and gifted it to her over in Flute Field since it's one of her favorite gifts. I'm probably going to need another 50 things of blueberry juice to befriend Angie, so I spent the morning of day 192 in the kitchen whipping up a whole bunch of those before spending the rest of the short day going around town being Santa to all these young boys and girls. Toby and Renee might have taken a while to get married, but they got busy reproducing early, as I have an invite to meet their son in my mailbox on day 193. I spent the morning once again collecting all the produce from my flowers and feeding my large animals in the barn before running over to the Horn Ranch where, wouldn't you guess it, I can't meet Renee and Toby's kid just yet because it's a Wednesday and they're very conveniently closed. Why even send me a letter if I can't see the little bastard? I had to wait a day, but I was finally able to behold Renee and Toby's progeny on day 194. This little guy's name is Matt, and I'm sure he'll be fishing with his dad in no time. Day 195 is the Harvest Festival, so I'm up early in the fields collecting jelly and picking a couple flowers that I put into the mixer to make some blue perfume to use in today's cooking competition. Why perfume is considered a cooked item, I'll never know, but I got first place, so, hate the game, not the player. I also picked up the blue ribbon in the flower competition thanks to the blue mist flower, but the less I say about the fruit and vegetable competition, the better. Your boy definitely wasn't on the top step for either of those. I put a cap on the fall season on day 196, starting by harvesting all the blue mist flowers that have been on display at the farm for the better part of the season. I made sure that all my birds were well fed and happy, and finished the day and fall off by wandering around the districts of Harmonica Town gifting stuff to the kiddos. The first day of winter, day 197, begins in my closet throwing on a new fit, then getting a free gift from the snowman. I spent that morning preparing my fields for some flowers by watering the soil and removing some pesky boulders that somehow managed to make their way onto my river plot. Down at Marimba, I got all my flower seeds purchased, then ran back to my farm to get them all sown in the moist soil. I finished the day in the coop collecting bird eggs. Days 198 and 199 are identical. I spent the morning playing with Cece and did my farm chores, which consisted of watering crops, milking and feeding the cows, and collecting a bunch of eggs. And honestly, day 200 would be the same, if not for the fact that I reached level 5, the final level of the watering can tool skill, which is kind of a moot point right now. And in all honesty, there isn't that much left to do to 100% Harvest Moon Animal Parade. A lot of it just takes a whole bunch of time, so I think an epilogue is needed right about now. We kick off the epilogue on day 205, where Cece has finally learned to walk. Vivi asked me how our kids should be raised, and I think that they should grow up carefree. After a solid 8 days of chopping wood in the huge forest, I finally got my axe skill maxed out to level 5 on day 208. And then I spent another 3 days in the mines just pounding rocks until I maxed out another tool skill, the hammer, on day 211. Day 212 was the final grow-up cutscene for all the rival marriage children. Renee and Toby's son Matt is now fully grown and can finally accept gifts, Shining Honey being one of his favorites.
Day 215 begins at the front of my house as I tirelessly swing my hoe for 3 days straight, culminating in another tool skill reaching level 5. The interesting thing about getting the hoe skill to level 5 though, is that I also picked up another power berry to raise my stamina. 𝐶𝐶 said her first words on day 219, and so 𝐕𝐵 and I wondered what we would talk about with her, and I thought about talking about our passions is the correct route. After another grueling couple days smashing the A button outside my house, I was able to get my sickle tool skill level maxed out on day 221. And almost 2 weeks later, 𝐶𝐶's child day arrived on day 233. Now that she is fully grown, the whole family went down to Simon's and got a photo to commemorate the day. As soon as one child grows up, 𝐕𝐵 woke me up on day 235 requesting another one, and you know your boy isn't gonna refuse. Fast forward 21 days to day 256 and 𝐕𝐵 has entered labor for the second time. We rush over to the Coral Clinic where a healthy baby boy is delivered. Going with the theme of naming my children after their mother, I named this child Kiki, who I'm sure will be an energetic son. But on day 265, tragedy struck. My duck Calvin was called to the duck pond in the sky, so Kane, 𝐶𝐶, and I went down to the cemetery to bury our friend and start the grieving process. Just as a little side note, I had more animals die of old age in this epilogue, but it's sad, so I won't be covering any more of those. Fast forwarding to day 271, I gave 𝐶𝐶 a shining chicken egg, one of her favorite gifts, which saw her reach 10 out of 10 hearts, granting me the penultimate power berry to increase my stamina once again. It took me 283 total days, but giving Matt a final shining chicken egg got him up to 10 hearts. Matt was the final NPC outside of my newborn son I needed to get up to max friendship. So it's really nice to see this list of townspeople totally maxed out, apart from Kiki, of course. Speaking of Kiki, my boy is finally grown up on day 311. With another kiddo ready to go to school, 𝐕𝐵 and I went back down to Simon's to take an updated family photo with the whole gang. The final tool I needed to upgrade to max level was the fishing rod. If you've ever played Harvest Moon Animal Parade, you know just how long and difficult this journey is. On average, every fish you can catch in this game is worth 43.6 experience points. And to reach level 5 fishing skill, you need 99,000 experience. That means on average, you need to catch 2,271 fish to reach level 5. So since I maxed out my sickle on day 211, I've been doing almost nothing but fishing in my free time. And on day 317, more than 100 days after maxing out my sickle, I caught the final fish I needed at Toucan Island to reach level 5 in the fishing skill. In addition to that, I also received the final power berry, taking my stamina level to the max. 30 days later, I was able to max out my friendship with another one of my children by giving Kiki this shining duck egg on day 347, officially befriending every single possible person in Harvest Moon Animal Parade. The day after, on day 348, I was also able to befriend every wild animal by giving the frog, who only comes around when it's raining in the spring, summer, and fall, a fish and a pet. Considering the frog was far and away the most difficult wild animal for me to befriend just because he never comes around, it was only right that I selected him as my house pet. He shall be named Howard. And to put a cap on this beautiful experience that was perfecting Harvest Moon Animal Parade, we fast forward to day 358, the circus day in spring of year 4. As 𝐕𝐵, 𝐶𝐶, Kiki, and I make our way to Harmonica Town to enjoy the Eunice the Giraffe slide and watch the Parade of Animals one final time. Thank you so much for watching my video. I was on the fence when all my commenters suggested I play Animal Parade, but after 100%ing the game, I'm not afraid to admit that it's a top 5 Harvest Moon game for me now. For those of you who are itching to publish a comment that I didn't perfect the game because I didn't complete the encyclopedias and get all the trophies, you can delete that. I did complete every encyclopedia except the cooking one. It just happened in the epilogue and I thought I was recording and, I wasn't. But here's me going through all those encyclopedias for you to prove that I did. So yeah, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed it and want to see me 100% more games, make sure you subscribe and enable notifications. Leaving a like on this video will also show me that you guys want to see more Harvest Moon videos perfected. If you want to get more involved in my community, you should follow me on Blue Sky and Twitch. Those links are in the description. My personal Discord server is also linked in the description. We have a lot of fun over there, and I'm sure you'll have a great time and won't regret joining. And that's about it for this video. I want to thank you again for sticking around and watching the entire thing, and I hope I'll see you in my next one.